I was the ultimate loser at Ridgeview High, the kid everyone used as a free punching bag. Then the black pills keeping my sleeping demon powers quiet ran out, and I awakened as the demon prince. Suddenly, the exact people who used to laugh started shaking in their boots and clearing a path. That same afternoon, 30 classmates stood around filming us behind the school. Brock Dempsey had recorded my beatings for months. He always destroyed my medicine and tormented anyone who tried helping. Then he offered me one free shot. His rule's one punch, then he gets to wreck me, so I swung. Teeth literally flew through the air. Brock soared over the front row and slammed hard. The laughing stopped instantly. One kid lowered his phone. Serena Maddox, the blonde girl by the fence, did not even blink. That bald tyrant had used my face for clout. Now, half his teeth were lying in the dirt. The entire schoolyard looked terrified. The medicine had finally failed, and the weak kid they all knew was gone forever. The pills were finished, my grandmother was missing, and something monstrous was hunting me. To understand that punch, you have to go back about 3 weeks with me. It all started when Brock kicked my black pills across the cafeteria floor. Back then, his crew recorded me almost every single day. Their absolute favorite game was making me carry their heavy bags while calling me their good little pet. On really bad days, Brock forced me to kneel. He absolutely despised me because girls actually noticed my face before looking at his overpriced sneakers. Seriously, there was no massive reason. Girls just checked me out first. Brock noticed, so he hit me much harder. He targeted anyone else until they learned to ignore me entirely. One guy who lent me a pencil found his bag shoved in a toilet. A girl who spoke up to defend me spent an entire week eating lunch alone. The unwritten school rule was pretty simple. Stand next to me, and you were his next target. Kids stopped sitting near me. They just looked away whenever his goons shoved me. Even the teachers walked away whenever Brock started shouting. That morning, I reached for the black pill my grandmother made me take every day. She always gave me the exact same warning. Take one pill every single morning. Miss it, and I could catch a fever or pass out. Brock slapped the bottle right out of my hand, sending black pills rolling under tables. His blonde goon stepped right on my chest while the other guy recorded. Brock crouched down and used my family name to mock me. What are these? Avery pills to make you finally grow? The entire cafeteria laughed, exactly like Brock wanted. Then he picked up a single pill, crushed it under his shoe, and ordered his goon to use me for target practice. The first punch folded me right over a lunch table. The second left a bloody taste in my mouth. Brock leaned close, telling me to smile. He said people like me more when I am actually useful. Suddenly, a heavy lunch tray slammed down right between us. She was a gorgeous blonde classmate with sharp blue eyes. And honestly, you and I both know I forgot the pain for one stupid second. I just wanted to live. Serena looked right at Brock and told him to move. Brock tried to smile like he practiced. He claimed they were just joking. Serena nudged his shoe off my bottle, telling him his material was garbage. His goons actually stepped back because she said it like an absolute command. Then Serena picked up the cleanest pill. Its black shell was cracked. Her entire expression shifted for half a second. She rolled the pill between her fingers and asked where I got it. When I said my grandmother, she handed it back, warning me she had seen this coating before and telling me to be careful. She gave the medicine a really intense look, then stared at me, walking away before Brock could say another word. Brock watched her stare at me, his jaw clenching. I swallowed what was left of the crushed pill. Most of the dark powder was already smeared across the dirty floor. Later that morning, kids crowded around a phone showing a weird, blurry creature scaling a downtown building. Most called it fake. I stayed quiet. Brock was already enough trouble for one morning. By evening, I was hiding out in our apartment, covering my ugly bruises with a clean shirt. My grandmother was the only person who never turned a blind eye. She saw right through me and adjusted my shirt, revealing a dirty shoe print on the back. Tapping the mark, she asked if I was a person or a doormat, or maybe just someone with terrible balance. I joked that the floor won. Her voice remained calm, but her hands trembled while checking my sore ribs. I absolutely hated that. I could handle Brock's heavy punches, but seeing her blame herself was way worse, so I lied and blamed a rough gym class. She stared right through me until I looked down, then pushed the bottle forward, telling me to take tomorrow's dose early. The missed dose might kick in before the next pill works. That night, while showering, a loud knock came at our door. I only learned what happened out there from the broken memory fragments my grandmother pushed into my mind much later. A man in a uniform stood outside holding a scanner. Keeping the door chained, she asked about the package. The delivery guy's creepy smile stretched way too far. He whispered that she had it. His hand slammed through the gap. She caught his wrist. Blood-red threads shot out from her sleeve, wrapping tightly around his arm. The fake postman pulled once, but the threads only dug deeper. Then, he dropped his human face. Pitch black eyes opened all over his skin as jagged, hooked teeth pushed through his grin, but my grandmother did not scream. Instead, she slammed him against the door, threw it open, and dragged the monster inside before any neighbors could notice. The demon mocked her, calling her a weak old woman. Huge mistake. He tore free from the ceiling and swung a hand shaped like a butcher hook. She effortlessly stepped inside the swing. Red threads bound his elbow, while another snagged his throat. She simply twisted 2 fingers. The monster slammed into the wall, cracking a framed family photo. Instantly, the red threads pinned him to the ceiling, slicing through his limbs and crushing whatever kept him alive. His body smoked, crumbled apart, and left nothing but black ash scattering across our entryway. By the time I finally got out of the shower, my grandmother, Avery, had already swept most of it under a rug. She tucked her bleeding palm inside her sleeve while I hid my bruised ribs beneath my shirt. Eating noodles together, we lied with some seriously impressive teamwork. Every time I started recognizing a neighborhood, Irene found boxes. You can imagine how exhausting that gets. Only later did I learn these constant moves kept hunters from locking onto us, and I paid the price by never having friends. The next morning, that misdose hit hard. Right in the middle of class, intense heat began rolling through my entire body. My teacher's voice stretched, and the room tilted. I woke up in the nurse's office, seeing Serena standing right outside the glass. She disappeared before I could call out. Irene showed up shortly after, already holding a roll of packing tape. She flatly told me that we were moving tonight. As I sat up, I realized she had moved us so much I had stopped unpacking. Her jaw tightened as she warned that danger was close. It was her first honest sentence, so I asked who was coming. Irene squeezed the tape until the cardboard tube bent, telling me that staying where she sent me was the only way to help. Later that afternoon, back at the apartment, Irene quickly sent me out on an errand far away from the building. I only found out later that missing that dose let my sealed power leak out. The hunters already circling us tracked that trace right to our apartment. Security footage from the lobby showed exactly why. An empty delivery truck pulled into our lot, and the real driver stepped around the back. Suddenly, something dark dragged him right under the rear doors. Minutes later, he climbed back out moving completely wrong, followed by creepy strangers wearing his uniform. They carried absolutely no packages. But the lobby cat smelled them first. It fiercely clawed the attendant's arm, bolted straight under the desk, and refused to come out. Meanwhile, the fake delivery crew took the elevator up. I finally reached the lobby minutes later, only to see the truck doors hanging wide open. Empty floor, empty shelves, absolutely no cargo. One fake delivery man stood near the elevator with ash on his cuff, smiling and telling me it was the wrong building, kid. Then, a crash echoed 12 floors up. Irene had sent me away just to keep me safe. Now, I had to run back. The elevator doors would not open, so I took the stairs. 12 floors sounded easy enough, until that burning heat flared up inside me halfway. I forced myself to keep climbing as another crash shook dust from the ceiling. By the 10th floor, someone was screaming about a key. By the 12th, I saw our apartment door had been violently split open. Through the gap, a glowing red thread yanked a delivery demon clear across the kitchen. Irene snapped her fingers, and the monster burst into ash. But then, the strongest demon tore through 2 threads, slamming Irene clear across the room. Panicking, I threw my shoulder right into the door. The door burst open onto a totally ruined apartment where several demons were already crumbling into ash. Another demon hung from the wall, bound tightly in glowing threads. Irene stood protectively between me and the main boss, blood dripping down her arm. This towering demon wore a torn delivery uniform over heavily plated black skin, and one of his hands had transformed into a deadly blade. He pointed it right at Irene, demanding the key. But she just tightened the threads around his throat, mocking him for not even knowing what it looks like. The demon lunged. Irene slashed his cheek, driving him straight through our kitchen table. Honestly, for a second, I thought she actually won. Suddenly, a hidden creature behind the door grabbed me, locking its claws around my neck. The towering demon just smirked cruelly at Irene. He ordered her to drop the threads, making Irene freeze. As the monster holding me squeezed, I desperately bit down into its wrist. That was my first real fight back in years. It was ugly, desperate, and only worked for one fleeting second before the demon roared and slammed me into the wall. Irene tried to move, but the tall monster was faster. His blade flashed, and Irene's left arm hit the floor. Instantly, every single red thread went slack. I tried to get up, but the demon behind me kicked my ribs and dragged me up by my hair. Beside Irene, the tall leader pressed his blade under her chin, demanding the key. She just looked over at me. Her eyes remained locked on my face as blood poured down her side. She let the threads go. The demon laughed, stepped in, and drove his blade straight through her chest. He turned, driving that same weapon right through me. Cold, agonizing metal plunged straight under my ribs. All sound vanished from the room. Irene collapsed against me as the killer whispered that the key would die with me. I still had no idea what this key even was. My grandmother was dying in my arms. But then, Irene released every ounce of power she had left. Suddenly, thousands of glowing red threads burst through the entire apartment. They smash through walls, binding the demons and tearing that giant attacker away. A single thread tightens right around his throat. Instantly, his smug grin vanishes. In a sudden explosion of ash, their entire squad disintegrates. Grandma Irene won, but we are still dying. Strange, chaotic memories start flooding my mind. I see a burning palace and a bloody sky. Irene is desperately running through heavy smoke, clutching a wrapped newborn tight to her chest. Ruthless soldiers hunt her down toward a blinding wall of light. Suddenly, I see myself as a little kid, fighting a bully to protect someone. None of these faces make sense to me, but I realize something incredible. Irene has been running to protect me my entire life. She presses her only remaining hand against my chest, sending those mysterious crimson threads deep beneath my skin. Inside, something freezing and massive answers. Watch closely. She whispers that she hid this power to protect me, but now I must survive. Heavy black chains I never knew existed are bound around my heart. Her threads snap them like twigs, flooding my system with insane raw power. The deep stab wound in my side rapidly seals around the blade. Freezing blue-white heat surges through my veins, cold enough to burn. Irene yanks the dagger out, and I catch her collapsing body before she hits the floor. "Grandma," I cry. She gently touches my face, whispering to fight when I must. "Protect the ones you choose," she tells me. Suddenly, her fingers turn gray. Her entire body crumbles to ash, slipping right through my desperate grip. She was the only person who ever kept me safe from the dark. Suddenly, our ruined apartment completely fades away. When I open my eyes, my fatal wound is healed. Grandma is gone. Only dark ash remains on the floor, my memories of her final moments completely shattered. I remember holding her, but those last words are a total blur. I report her missing to the police, unable to admit she is truly gone. My medicine bottle? Completely gone. Whatever dark force Grandma had sealed inside me is officially awake. I have absolutely no idea what will happen the next time someone tries to fight me. The next morning, surrounded by the wreckage, I call the cops. That is what normal people do when family vanishes. Meanwhile, her ash still covers the floor. My chest is fully healed beneath this shredded shirt. Half my mind is blank. Normal folks definitely have better luck than this. At the police station, the officer listens patiently. At least, until I mention giant, terrifying creatures disguised as delivery drivers. Staring closely at my severe bruises and the empty chair beside me, he asks what kind of drugs I took. I tell him about my daily dark medicine. He slides a counseling card over. "Just go home, kid." I point to the massive tear in my shirt where the blade went through, but he just pushes that card even closer to me. They write her off as missing and treat my story like a drug trip. I start searching on my own. 3 agonizing weeks pass with barely any sleep. Night after night, I tear the apartment apart, finding gray ash and spots I have already swept clean. Soon, Ridgeview High demands my return before I can even get a solid night of rest. On day 1, the track coach blows his whistle for sprints. Look at this, I cross the finish line, while our absolute fastest runner is still barely halfway down. The coach stares at his stopwatch, blinks twice, and orders a rerun. I actively try to hold back, but I still leave everyone in the dust. The track star is staring at my feet like I hid rockets in my sneakers. Even a kid by the bleachers completely freezes while tying his laces. Serena Maddox stands by the fence, arms tightly crossed. When our eyes lock, she immediately glances at the empty strap on my bag where my pills used to hang. She was already asking suspicious questions about those meds before Grandma vanished. Now, she monitors my speed and looks back at that empty loop. After class, Serena corners me in the hallway and says I stopped taking my pills. She notes the missing bottle, her eyes scanning my hands. She asks if I have a fever. I tell her only when people nose around. Serena almost smiles, advising me to try staying on the ground today. That is a highly suspicious warning, so of course, I completely ignore it. During lunch, I head into a deserted stairwell and spot an open window leading directly outside. The situation is simple. No meds means my body is changing. I have to find out what I can survive before Brock comes looking for trouble again. I leap straight down, landing hard. The dirt actually cracks under my heels, but my knees do not even bend from the massive impact. Serena is watching me from the open window. She closes her eyes, sighing heavily. "You are incredibly bad at following simple advice," she notes. "Your warning lacked proof." I shout back, "Though there is a crater here now." She walks off before I can ask how she knew. Later that evening, outside a local convenience store, a poor elderly lady loses control of her shopping cart piled with flat cardboard boxes. The boxes scatter all over the pavement. For a split second, seeing the back of her gray hair instantly reminds me of Grandma. Without even thinking, I am already kneeling down to help her gather them. Suddenly, two of Brock's goons walk out of the store laughing. The red-haired punk demands free cigarettes, but the lady refuses since they have no identification. His blonde friend kicks her cardboard into the dirty street. When the poor woman reaches out, he steps forward. He shoves her right to the ground. Instantly, boiling fury surges under my skin. I step directly between them. "Pick it up," I command. The ginger punk just stares. "You talking to me?" I point at the cardboard. "Use both hands. You need the practice." After laughing once, his friend suddenly remembers exactly who spoke. They drag me into the alleyway for some privacy. Their blonde guy punches first. I take it. The redhead kicks at my ribs. I catch his ankle midair. For a split second, we all stare at my hand. Then my grip tightens. Bone shatters. He drops screaming while his buddy backs straight into a dumpster. I drop his leg, staring in disbelief. 3 weeks ago, that kick would have destroyed me. Now? His foot shattered in my hand. This is insane. The blonde lackey grabs a glass bottle, then drops it when I look. I walk past them, easily lift the poor woman's cart with one hand, and move the cardboard off the road. She thanks me, but I only hear that bone-cracking sound replaying in my head. Next morning, the redhead limps into class wearing a massive medical boot, hiding his face behind a textbook when I look. Too bad he holds it upside down. He is absolutely terrified. Brock spots the boot. "What happened?" The guy mumbles staring at the inverted page. Then Brock glances my way. Their blonde buddy gets brave before his bald leader can. Slapping his hands on my desk, he sneers. "Think one lucky move changes things?" I look up. Cold fury bleeds from my eyes. He completely freezes. His hands slide away. Backing off, he bumps a chair and exits the room, completely abandoning his threat. Everyone watches him flee in total silence. That afternoon, I head to a deserted construction site to find a massive steel support beam. I double-check the empty stairwell. I need proof of my new power, without anyone watching. Punch. Deep dent. Then, I hook one hand underneath and easily lift the massive beam. This heavy beam, which needs machinery to move, balances on my palm. Strange dark lines crawl up my arm. My dusty window reflection shows glowing blue eyes. Frightened, I drop the beam. It slams down. Concrete shakes. There is my proof. Before I learn what else I break. Next day, Brock sits at the center lunch table with his followers. He bought enough fried chicken to feed a sports team, reserving the seat right next to him for Serena. Smooth move, big guy. Serena walks in wearing her school uniform, and I stare like an idiot. She catches me, so I look away as she bypasses Brock. Silence hits as Serena stops beside me. Asking if the seat is open, she sits. Brock insists he saved her a seat. She glances at him, asking if he saved any courage. His lackeys stare down. Brock stands, denying fear. Serena whispers that he sends others, which usually means fear. Brock overhears, his face turning as bright red as the ketchup bottles on the table. He challenges me to a fight at 6 o'clock behind the back gate. Soon, everyone at Ridgeview has the notification. Serena finds me near lockers, warning me Brock is waiting. I ask about his crowd. She smirks. "Concerned, are we?" I reply that I simply hate predictable disasters. I nod toward the gate, asking which of us is the disaster. She looks at my hands, wanting to find out. By 6:30, students form a tight schoolyard circle. Phones up, cash moving. Brock's guys hyped up my trip to the hospital, while someone else played a video of me carrying Brock's bag. Another asks if Serena is here to watch me get crushed. Brock hears him. He sheds his jacket and steps into the ring before the crowd can laugh. His hands are already taped up. Grinning, he raises a hand, offering me the first free shot. The crowd laughs. One free shot, then he breaks me. And honestly, we all know how bad he is going to regret this. I ask where. Anywhere. Brock spreads his arms. Serena watches my shoulders from the fence. Stepping up, I hear his whisper to make it look real. I smash his mouth, spinning teeth into dirt. His feet launch. Brock flies over the front row, crashing hard into a backpack. Pure silence. Everyone stops laughing. A kid who bet against me slides his cash away. The red-haired follower drops his phone, clutching the wrong leg in panic. His blonde follower backs away from his broken leader. Serena's eyes narrow, her arms releasing the chain-link fence. I stand over Brock as he dizzily tries to push himself off the grass. "Get up," I tell him. Brock struggled to get up, propping his weight on trembling arms. He weakly raised a hand begging me to stop before I finally backed off. This self-proclaimed king offered me a free punch, and now he is eating dirt. His crew completely abandoned him while 30 phones filmed the humiliation. He wanted a lesson. He got wrecked fast. Nobody dared touch Brock until they saw I was done. The crowd parted like the sea as I walked out, leaving them in dead silence. The kid holding my old blackmail video deleted it the second I looked at him. I wanted them terrified. But honestly, I kinda scared myself too. That is when Eddie Palmer caught up with me. Eddie was my one true friend, the only guy who did not ghost me after all my school transfers. He handed over the bag I left behind. He tells me I forgot my bag, then studies my face, warning me that I am losing myself. Maybe the old me needed work, but Eddie holds the strap, do not turn into him. I froze. His words stung deeply because he was right. That night, I reluctantly headed back to the apartment where Irene's belongings still sat. The rain starts pouring, the front door is wide open, and guys, watch the ceiling, something nasty is waiting in the dark. This demon drops down, kicking me hard. I grab its ankles, smash it through the table, and slam it right into the drywall. Pitch black eyes stare back at me as it gasps that my seal is broken. I choke it, demanding Irene's location. It claws my arm, smashes through the glass, and bolts. I leap right after it, chasing this thing down the wet fire escape. It is fast, but I am faster. The creature hits the street and glances back, giving me a target. I snatch Irene's dusty old umbrella from the stand. As the monster tries to scale a brick wall, I launch it. It flies straight across the alley and impales its shoulder, pinning it to the wall. The metal handle is still spinning. Irene bought that cheap thing on one of our moves. It finally found a permanent home. As it claws at the metal shaft, I land heavily in front of it. Start talking, but it just grins. It claims Irene Avery was some legendary guard general. My grandma? The woman who clipped coupons, checked my homework, and pretended she was weak? I ask what she was guarding. It sneers the key. I squeeze harder, demanding details, and its grin vanishes when it sees my eyes. Old orders named Irene as its protector. It whispers she died protecting me. Cold frost creeps over the bricks while the monster stares at my hand. It says I have no idea what I really am, then leans in close, smelling of sulfur and ash. Suddenly, it tears its own flesh free, leaving a chunk of its shoulder pinned behind as it flees over the rooftops. I chase it until the wounds on my arm burn like fire. Catching my reflection, I see blue light glowing in my eyes and black marks on my neck. One word keeps ringing in my head on the way back: demon. The scout got away with my face and proof the seal is broken. By morning, that monster will be handing a full report to the demon general, in charge of hunting me down. I would eventually find out that the scout reached the demon world before dawn, the terrifying place those creatures call home. The scout dragged itself back to a dark palace, carrying Irene's name, my face, and one crucial secret. My seal is completely broken. Lucian Crowell, a high general serving the Dark Throne, listens to the news with a cold, unreadable face. The messenger begs for mercy, but Lucian executes him mid-sentence. Behind him, King Varric sits quietly on his stolen throne. He hears that Irene is dead, and a powerful boy survived her. Hearing about the blue frost in my eyes sends a chill through Varric's court. This world is still recovering from a brutal civil war. Varric seized the throne, forcing the old loyalists into hiding. But one officer looks down just a second too late. Varric notices, immediately ordering his army to hunt down the old king's descendant. I would only learn these details much later. Back in the human world, Irene's old police file is my only lead. I march right into the precinct to get answers. A surveillance photo shows Irene holding my strange black pill bottle outside a tiny pharmacy, giving me a solid location. An hour later, I walk inside. The guy behind the counter looks at my face, drops his inventory, and bolts out the back door. Super normal pharmacist behavior, right? His name was Orson Webb. He sells tea by day, but runs the second Irene's grandson arrives. He flees through a crowded market, over moving buses, and up to the rooftops. He leaps the alley. I clear the gap easily. He looks back, swears, and accelerates. Vaulting trucks, kicking off traffic lights, this old man is absolutely flying across the city. I mirror every move, but this cranky pharmacist is forcing me to push my limits to keep up. Now he is trapped on the warehouse roof with nowhere left to run. He spins around, metal cane raised. "Stay back," Orson warned. I stopped just out of his cane's reach. "You supplied Irene's pills," I said. His cane dipped. I had my answer. I grabbed his coat collar. "What were they?" Orson just stared at the dark marks creeping up my wrist. "Suppressors, kept demon power completely dormant. Miss a dose, strength, speed, and marks leak right out." That explained it: the shattered foot, the steel beam, the marks on my skin. I shoved Orson against the wall. What was Irene? A guard general under the old demon king. The old shopkeeper watched my face. King Varric overthrew that entire royal family. Irene escaped the slaughter and hid on Earth. I supplied those pills for years, Orson told me. They kept her household quiet enough to hide from demon trackers. Her household? Orson stared at my marks again. Irene carried something incredibly valuable through the passage between worlds. What was it? Orson's jaw locked tight. Something the new king wanted. The key. His eyes sharpened. Where did you hear that? I just tightened my grip. Orson whacked my wrist with his cane and broke free. He could have run. Instead, he stared at the dark marks on my arm, turning completely pale. If Irene turned to ash, he said she died using every ounce of her power. I stopped pretending she might still walk through our door. Varric's hunters had slaughtered her right on our floor. I picked up his cane and handed it back. Orson took it slowly. I told him flat out everyone involved is going to pay. Orson's face tightened. Varric makes Brock look harmless. I know, I replied. Orson shook his head. You only know his name, that is all. He was right, but I still walked away with my answer. Later, I found out Varric sent soldiers before I even left Orson's shop. They were ordered to hunt the power leaking from my body. The fake king had sent an entire army after a high school student. Honestly, that should have been embarrassing for him. On my first day back after knocking Brock down, the whole high school acted like we had been best friends for years. Kids who used to avoid me were suddenly waving. Another student held a door open for me with both hands. One former target moved his bag, offering me the seat next to him. Even when Brock's blonde lackey stared, the kid kept it open. That was brand new. Honestly, isn't it wild how a single punch gets you more respect than years of just being a decent kid? Eddie Palmer met me right by my locker. My only real friend took one look at the crowd and just grinned. Fear changed sides. I noticed. Eddie lowered his voice. Brock missed the update. Serena Maddox appeared next to us before I could reply. She had her blonde hair tied up higher today. I stared for a second. Serena caught me staring. Are you busy after school? Eddie grinned and took a step back. Traitor, I muttered, then faced her. Depends. Is this another warning I'm going to ignore? It can be a chat if you behave, she said. Definitely a warning then. Serena pointed a finger at me. Don't disappear after class. She walked away, with Eddie staring. Yeah, fear definitely changed sides. Serena wants you all to herself. Now, here's what actually went down behind the gym that afternoon, according to what Eddie confessed in the clinic later. Brock had watched Serena walk away from my locker. He cornered Eddie immediately, demanding to know where I was. Eddie refused. Brock slammed him against the wall. Call Cameron, he ordered. Eddie glanced at the missing tooth gap my punch had left in Brock's smile. Wiping his bloody lip, Eddie sneered. Call him yourself, you still have some teeth left. Then Eddie actually punched Brock right in the mouth. The hit barely even registered, but Eddie stayed on his feet, raising his fists again. Brock's lackeys beat him to the ground and left a message. I was expected behind the abandoned maintenance shed right after lunch. Just minutes after the beating, Eddie found me limping near the main hall. He kept one arm squeezed against his broken ribs, trying to hide the blood on his shirt collar. Brock wants you behind the shed, he muttered. What did he do to you? Eddie gave a painful shrug, claiming it was nothing he couldn't handle, even as his knees shook. I immediately texted Serena to postpone our meeting. She replied before I could even pocket my phone. Serena texted back, try leaving at least one wall standing. I sent back, no promises. I dropped Eddie off at the clinic and marched toward the shed. Inside the dusty, abandoned maintenance building, Brock's whole gang was waiting. One kid locked the door. Brock stood right in the center, metal pipe in hand, mouth swollen and angry. You embarrassed me, Brock snarled. You did that to yourself, I replied. He swung. I slipped. The pipe hit his own lackey. Brock stared at his own mistake. I snatched the metal pipe away, bent it clean over my knee, and tossed it at his feet. His crew lunged. I stepped right into the chaos, ducked a swing, drove my shoulder hard into some guy's chest. Then I swept another guy's legs, threw a third straight into a pile of broken wooden chairs. A red-haired lackey saw me turning his way and literally sat down voluntarily. Honestly, smartest move of the day. Then Brock attacked from behind. I caught his wrist, slammed him to the floor, and planted my shoe right next to his face. Stay here, I told the remaining crew. You are safer inside. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air, then another. The shed's glass window shattered inward. A beast with black claws drags a teacher right past the doorway. Suddenly, this stupid brawl does not matter. Monsters are absolutely swarming Ridgeview High. Terrified kids scramble between classrooms while dark shadows scale the walls and smash through doors. A teacher desperately guides kids toward the stairs, but a demon intercepts her, brutally throwing her right through the window glass. Another monster hisses find the key, track his scent. But I deck the first beast before it can even move. It slides across the floor, lifts its ugly head, and locks eyes with me. 3 other monsters completely ignore the running kids and target me instead. My unleashed energy actually has a distinct scent and they are tracking it, so I smash the fire alarm. The sirens start blaring. Sprinklers burst overhead. Pure panic fills the halls. I jump onto a hallway railing and scream, "Hit the exits. Stay away from me." The closest beasts immediately pivot. Perfect. I bolt the other way. They tail me. Every single turn I take buys the kids precious seconds, keeping those killers away from the escaping crowd. I rip a classroom door off its hinges, using it as a heavy shield as I charge through the next intersection. A tiny demon scales the top of my shield. I smash the heavy door into the wall, crushing it flat, while kids behind me reach the stairs. Suddenly, Brock strikes me from behind with a bent metal pipe. I lose my footing. You can always count on the school bully to pull a dirty trick like this. Brock just snarls at me, "I am not hiding behind you." A beast drops from the ceiling, snatching his throat. The pipe clatters away. Brock gasps, "Cameron." As the demon drags him toward a shattered window, Brock claws the floor, begging. He literally expects me to just watch. I grab the arm of the beast, snap its grip, and hurl it straight through a row of lockers. Brock collapses at my feet, staring in shock as the monster struggles. Stomping its head right into the tile, I watch it turn to black ash. Brock just stares with his mouth wide open. Pointing toward the exit, I tell him to move before his next brilliant plan gets us killed. He bolts without looking back. Another beast lunges from behind. Suddenly, glowing silver lines snap. The monster instantly freezes midair, folds completely in half, and crashes down. Serena is standing right there. No school jacket now, just tight black sleeves and razor threads woven between her fingers. She looks unfairly cool. With a single tug, she crushes a demon that could rip through concrete. I focus. Brock is crawling across her path. Serena steps directly on his face and looks at me. "You two are pretty useless." Brock mumbles a protest beneath her boot. Serena tightens a wire around the neck of a monster. "They are following you. This gym has massive open space and heavy roof supports. We can trap the whole pack there," I say, watching the horde. "You actually planned this?" Serena asks, casually yanking Brock out of danger without even looking at him. "Run first, ask questions later." Honestly, that is a solid plan. We lead them to the gym, with me acting as bait. Serena uses doorways, railings, and her lethal threads to corral the beasts and keep them tightly packed. The remaining students easily follow our shouted directions, since Brock is finally shut up. Inside, a heavy divider curtain hangs from steel cables overhead. Serena points up, shouting, "Radam." I rip the huge curtain free and drag it across the court. The lead wave hits the fabric. Serena loops her threads around the corners, and we pull. Look at this, they are actually fusing together. Their horrific bodies begin merging as arms fold into shoulders. Thick black armor plates lock across a massive, expanding back. A single giant head emerges, covered in way too many eyes. This fused abomination rips through the barrier, swatting me across the gym. I smash the bleachers, denting the metal. It waits for my counterattack. I stay down so Serena can slip behind it. Her deadly threads instantly wrap around both its ankles. I slam into its side while its balance is off. Serena targets its legs, but the giant grabs her wires, pulling her forward. I blitz across the court, drive both feet into its chest, and force the monster beneath a fractured roof support. The beast grabs me around the waist. Serena scales its back, loops her threads around the support, and screams for me to strike. I deliver a massive punch upward. The fractured brace snaps, sending a heavy steel roof beam crashing down to pin the beast. The giant struggles. Serena binds its arms while I drive the beam down. Suddenly, the entire monster crumbles into black ash. For a single moment, absolute silence fills the gym. Brock stands near the doorway, soaked and trembling, staring at Serena in disbelief. Then he looks at me. The survivors step behind my back as another chilling sound echoes from the hallway. A kid grabs a younger boy, pulling him behind me. Brock notices where everyone is standing and slowly lowers his pipe. Suddenly, Eddie screams my name. He stumbles through the gym doors with blood soaking his shirt. I sprint toward him, ignoring Serena yelling my name. "Cameron, stop!" Then it flooded into my mind. The gym vanished. Eddie's eyes locked onto me. He tried speaking my name. I saw Irene bleeding on our floor, her warm hand pressed against my chest once more. Her final words echoed, "Protect whoever you choose." Suddenly, freezing blue flames exploded straight out of my chest. Ice surged across the shadow demon, pinning its arms and wrapping around its face. It fought to escape, but I gripped the spike piercing my own chest, holding that monster in place. The freezing fire surged. The demon froze solid. Then it shattered across the gym floor. Serena retreated from the intense frost expanding under my feet. The gym's massive windows instantly glazed over. Everyone left standing could only stare at this freezing fire. Even Serena looked terrified of me now. Suddenly, Eddie collapsed and I desperately reached out. My own strength gave out before I could touch him. My world faded as Serena sprinted our way through the blue flames. You'd think surviving that school massacre earned me some real answers, right? Instead, I woke up in her house surrounded by enough heavy weaponry to start a small revolution. Hours after the horror, I woke up inside Serena Maddox's guest room. My chest was wrapped in tight bandages. Heavy steel shutters locked the windows. A massive axe hung beside the bed, while a sleek crossbow waited below the window. Locked metal cases lined the entire wall. She possessed enough firepower to protect a whole nation, yet left sharp axes near wounded guests. Suddenly, the floorboard creaked. I grabbed the axe and swung at the entrance, but sharp silver threads wrapped around my wrist. Serena calmly glided in, pivoted, and froze the razor-sharp edge just inches from her face. Her blonde hair fell loosely. She looked completely drained, yet ridiculously skilled at handling injured fools. "Easy, Cameron," she warned, pulling the threads tighter. "I literally dragged you out of a blazing school," she said, "so try not to axe me." I finally recognized her and let go. The axe fell to the floor. "Where is Eddie?" I asked. Serena's expression softened. "The Aegis medics who extracted us from the school actually found a pulse," she explained. "He's alive." My legs instantly buckled before my brain could process the news. I had watched him get brutally impaled right in front of me. I saw that massive spike tear through his chest. Hearing that he was alive was all that mattered. I buried my face as the tears of pure relief spilled out. Serena quietly looked away to give me a moment. Taking one deep breath, I stood up and headed for the door. But Serena blocked my way, telling me to stay. "You just told me Eddie is alive," I protested. Serena merely pointed to my bandages. "Aegis is treating him." "You are literally tearing your stitches open right now," she warned. I tried pushing past, but she grabbed my arm, spun around, and slammed me face first onto the bed. The bed bounced as I rolled over, furious. She immediately pinned my shoulder with her knee, locking my wrists in place with her razor-thin thread. "Listen up," Serena warned. "Your home is completely gone. Demons are tracking you, and your school is currently covered in security cameras and ash. Until you learn to control whatever power bursts from you, I am your protector." I just glared sideways at her boot. "You go to school with me," I noted. Serena shrugged it off as an administrative detail. I glanced at the axe. "You keep an axe by the bed," I pointed out. "Preparedness," Serena replied. "And you burned a hole in the gym," I added. She leaned closer. "Yet here you are, pinned to the mattress," she smirked. "Fair enough." She finally let me up once I swore to stay until morning. Well, that vow barely survived until dinner. Later that night, black smoke filled her kitchen while she hovered over a pan holding a heavy fire extinguisher. The heavily armed goddess could easily slice a demon using metal threads. But get this, raw chicken defeated her in 6 minutes. "You know you can turn down the stove, right?" Serena defensively crossed her arms, claiming she was monitoring the situation. I glanced down. The situation is pure charcoal. My grandmother taught me since we constantly relocated too fast for takeout. She always said a warrior who cannot feed themselves is just an expensive liability. Serena quietly watched me work, asking if my grandmother taught me everything. I nodded, listing off cooking, laundry, sewing, and packing up a whole apartment in 10 minutes flat. Serena quietly stared at the cutting board. She was incredibly practical, I agreed. We ate at a giant table built for 8, though only 2 chairs actually moved. Serena toyed with her dinner, admitting her house was normally silent. Staring at the empty seats, I told her mine was too. She locked eyes with me for a brief moment, then immediately swiped food right off my plate. Guess emotional bonding means grand theft dinner. By breakfast, every school attack video was scrubbed from student accounts. Serena showed me 3 dead links on her screen. Right as I watched, a 4th completely vanished. Then she revealed who was behind those medics. Aegis Command runs the task force covering up these incidents before people find out. They grabbed Eddie, and they are hunting you too. A black car waited outside. No point in hiding now. That morning, Serena escorted me downtown to the Aegis Command Center. This secret headquarters was literally a massive glass skyscraper with its name plastered across the front. I stared up at their polished silver logo. Serena didn't even slow down, heading straight for the underground facility. I glanced back, finally understanding that massive 40-foot sign. Burying their secrets underground didn't make that massive 40-foot logo any less obvious. 3 high-security doors slid open for her without a word. But one analyst recognized me from that gym footage. The guy immediately stopped whispering and backed away. Beside him, another worker noticed and did the exact same thing. For years, people avoided me because Brock treated me like prey. Now, Aegis staff kept their distance because they saw monsters freeze around me. Different reasons, same empty space. Scanners swept over us as Serena dragged me past several glass labs. I came here for real answers, not a guided tour. The heavy elevator doors sealed, plunging us down so fast my stomach dropped. All the while, Serena just watched my reaction. You see where this is going? I told her entire life definitely needs some serious warning labels. 2 floors down, the doors opened to a white room packed with cameras. A purple-haired woman stood waiting, holding a guitar case. Serena tensed. Karen Ashby, Aegis weapon specialist whose tests always end in absolute destruction. Karen flipped the metal latches, and that harmless guitar case split open into a deadly, bladed rifle. She shot before Serena finished. I ducked. The bullet shattered the wall, but Karen immediately fired again. Rolling under the blast, I dashed across the room to grab her gun, but a cable snapped out, pulling Karen out of reach. Her boot aimed straight for my temple from an impossible, unnatural angle, but I still managed to catch her ankle. Karen twisted violently, pulling the rifle free to aim directly at my ribs from 3 feet away. I slapped the barrel down. Next, she aimed a vicious elbow right at my throat, but I caught that too. For a brief moment, I pinned her completely. Karen glared. I told her to strike back, admitting I still did not know my own strength. She just spat. Calling me a coward, she dropped low and swung the heavy blade of her weapon straight at my knees. Serena's threads caught the blade mid-swing. They both pulled hard, freezing the weapon right between them. I backed off before these 2 weapon hoarders completely destroyed the entire facility. Right then, a side door slid open. Director Wallace Kerr walked in with 2 heavily armed guards. He ran Aegis command, and every camera instantly tracked his face. He eyed the bullet holes, Karen's strained hands, and my perfectly clean skin, telling me I could have ended the test sooner. I calmly told him I could have hurt her sooner, as Karen angrily yanked her rifle free from Serena's threads. He hesitated. I pointed at the broken wall, saying they brought real bullets to a normal conversation. Begging us to skip the lectures on restraint, Director Kerr almost smiled, promising that Aegis could offer medical care and protection. Asking what he wanted, Kerr answered with cooperation. I just looked at the flashing cameras. Saying ownership sounded expensive, Kerr just repeated cooperation, adding their sole job was protecting humanity from monsters. Every single demon has to die. The marks under my sleeve burned, but Kerr still thought I was just some lucky survivor. Letting him keep believing that, I asked what happens if a demon actually saves humans. Kerr answered instantly. They use the rescue, then kill the threat. Serena's hand tensed around her sharp silver thread. Just watch her eyes. Karen stared at me instead of her gun, showing me exactly how much truth Aegis can handle. Karen packed her rifle back into her case. Serena watched as Karen snapped the latch, complaining that Serena had scratched her weapon. Serena snapped back that Karen's floor attacked first. I just stared at the 2 dangerous women arguing over their weapons. Interrupting them, I asked if any woman at Aegis owned anything remotely normal. They said no. Serena pointed out I woke up holding her axe. Suddenly, medics wheeled a covered stretcher through the glass corridor. I saw his face before the doors closed. Eddie. I rushed forward, causing a guard to grab his gun. Serena stopped me. He is stable. Eddie looked so pale under the lights. The monitor beside him showed a steady pulse. I pressed my palm against the glass as they wheeled him away. Aegis proved he was alive, but they also hit him somewhere completely out of my reach. I slowly turned to Director Kerr. Demanding real updates on Eddie without any edited lies, Kerr studied me before offering access in exchange for my cooperation. This was how Aegis always played. They find the person you love and put a security clearance badge between you. Their little badge bought my silence for now, but I intend to use every single door they just unlocked. While Aegis tried recruiting me, Orson's contacts sent chilling news from outside King Varric's palace, deep in the demon realm. Lucian Krell, Varric's general, shattered a stone cliff with one swing as a messenger warned that the interdimensional passage was closing. Lucian stared out over the broken ridge. "Tell the king I will be ready," he muttered. That night, I went straight back to Orson Webb's shop. I shut the door tightly, demanding more suppressors. Orson stared at the Aegis badge on my coat. When he asked why, I told him the truth: their director wants every demon dead. The grumpy shopkeeper stopped pretending this was just medicine. Suppressors only hide your magic. Orson warned they will never teach you to actually master it. I insisted on training. Locking the door, Orson whispered that Aegis could never find out, and I quickly agreed. And neither can Serena, Orson sighed, looking exhausted. The dangerous girl, who literally dragged you home? Sure. Great plan. She will notice nothing. Late that night, after Serena assumed I was asleep, I quietly crept toward the back exit. But she was already waiting in the dark hallway with a suspicious look. Going somewhere? She asked, and I just mumbled that I was walking. Serena glanced at the clock. At midnight? She asked, leaning in closer to smell the market tea on my jacket. Narrowing her eyes, she called me a terrible liar. I told her she was great at interrogating. Serena blinked in surprise. I reached for the lock, but her thread wrapped the handle first, blocking my exit. Be back before sunrise, she warned. When I teased her, she shrugged, claiming she hates broken windows. Yet my guardian, who supposedly did not care, had stayed awake waiting right by the door. Now watch this. Orson leads me under an abandoned warehouse to train, but his first lesson is a sudden, brutal attack. I dodged the first blow, but the next clipped my shoulder, and the third sent me flying across the floor. Keeping my hands up, I just kept dodging. Throwing a real punch meant remembering broken bones and Brock's shattered teeth. Orson saw my hesitation. He weaponized Irene's name, reminding me she survived the Old King's War. He snapped, yelling that she died to low-life thugs because she wasted her final strength protecting a kid who refuses to fight back. Sudden cold flooded the chamber. Blue flames rolled down my arms, and frost crawled over Orson's cane. He froze, suddenly looking terrified. That color belonged to King Alden's bloodline, Orson whispered. See? King Alden ruled the demon world before Varric's bloody coup. Lowering his cane, Orson finally revealed the secret history he had kept hidden. Decades ago, a human woman somehow crossed into the demon world, and King Alden protected her. They fell in love and had a half-human son right before Varric attacked. I stared at the blue flames engulfing my hands. Did Irene bring that kid to Earth? I believe she carried royal blood, Orson answered. Your flame is the proof. I must know if this energy obeys you, he muttered, pressing his cane against my chest. A thin thread of blue energy was drawn out of me, swirling into a small glass vial. Placing it inside a carved floor circle, Orson warned there was only one rule. That glass holds a real piece of your power. Defeat it, or watch it run completely wild. Believe me, this gets dangerous fast. A horned beast bursts from the vial, wielding my speed and lunging without a shred of fear. I rushed the thing. It caught my fist, slamming me through a stone pillar, but I crawled up to try again. It moved first, driving a knee into my chest and burying me in the wall. Frost climbed up my arms. The monster sucked the warmth right out of me, growing even bigger. I managed to free one hand and grab its horn, but it slammed my head down. Everything started going black. Orson slammed his cane down, striking the circle. The creature collapsed back inside the vial just before my chest was completely crushed. I lay on the shattered stone, violently shivering. Aegis's top agent couldn't touch me, but my own power almost killed me under a minute. Now you understand the issue, he said. Dragging myself up, I told Orson to reset the trial tomorrow. He stared, saying I could barely stand. Then tomorrow starts on the floor, I countered. Meanwhile, researchers at Aegis watched Eddie's monitor very closely. But they should have been watching me. While I pushed my limits on Earth, Orson's spies later reported what was happening in King Varric's palace. Food shipments to the capital had completely stopped. One court noble asked how long the stolen throne planned to wait for the passage to reopen. Varric threw him across the massive hall and demanded his general, Lucian Krull, be brought to him. A servant muttered that the general was never around. Lucian stepped out, saying he always has eyes everywhere. The servant bowed so fast, his head almost hit the floor. Varric's order was simple: find the royal child. A week into my secret training, Serena cornered me right at the kitchen sink. I had just finished washing the last plate. She blocked the exit with folded arms, demanding answers. I simply dried my hands and claimed I was taking walks. Serena stepped even closer. Sneaking out past midnight and returning covered in blood. Normal couples usually have a talk about that. I just stared at her. She stared back. Relationship, I asked, making her ears flush pink. Just a living arrangement, I smiled. Quick retreat. Serena pointed accusingly at the stone dust. Answer the question. But I couldn't exactly tell her I was training with an exiled demon. Aegis had literally sworn to wipe out Orson's entire species, while I was hiding my own demonic marks. So, I just dried the plate and walked on by. Serena snapped a silver thread across the hall. Keep your secrets. Next time, you clean up your own blood. My totally uncaring guardian was somehow jealous, furious, and charging me for cleaning. Yep, a perfectly normal living arrangement. That night, 5 vials hovered above Orson's sealed chamber, holding my split power. The first construct was pure speed, the second held raw brute strength, while blue fire completely covered the third. A fourth conjured heavy barriers, and freezing frost crept from the last. Orson cracked them open. You almost died facing just one, I warned. You almost died, Orson corrected. I was perfectly fine. Suddenly, all 5 constructs lunged together, with speed striking first. Strength slammed me mid-turn, throwing me hard against the wall. Blue flames blocked my left, a barrier sealed my right, and frost completely froze my feet. I broke free, but that speed clone instantly put me down. Orson watched from outside the circle. Rage is fast. Thinking is faster, though. Easy advice from a guy sitting safely behind a seal. I finally stopped chasing the speed clone. Whenever they reformed, the frost clone's glowing horn lit up first. So, I stood my ground and let the strength clone grab me. It hoisted me up toward the barrier. I launched off the wall, flipped right over its shoulder, and landed next to the frost clone. The horn flashed. I shattered it with both hands. Freezing energy ripped through my chest, and the frost figure burst into glowing blue sparks. Those sparks sank straight into my skin. Freezing ice erupted from my palm, coating the entire training floor, locking the speed clone mid-stride. The barrier cracked. Blue flames died beneath white frost. The strength clone ripped one arm free and charged right at me. Thrusting my palm out, I shot up its legs and halted right at its waist. I held the freeze there instead of burying the entire room. That small, precise choice hurt way more than a wild, massive blast. My knuckles split wide open, sending freezing cold blood pouring down my wrist. The construct stayed frozen. Orson stared through the seal. You reclaimed the ice. I just stared at the floor. 4 left, I said. His mouth twitched. Try surviving breakfast first. And watch this, because Aegis turned their routine test into absolute public chaos. This training tower had 10 floors of massive walls, dangling cables, and moving platforms. Beside the starting gate, Serena and Karen stood ready, while eager agents crowded the rails above. Karen tapped her guitar case. Try keeping up without cheating. Serena flexed her silver threads. Try carrying a normal object. Suddenly, the signal flashed. They launched upward. Serena swung from cables like slings, while Corinne fired anchors from her case, ripping herself between floors. Suddenly, Kira Lowell crashed the party. This wild, pink-haired Aegis cadet wore heavy armored gauntlets and had absolutely zero respect for any safety rules. She punched both fists downward, blasting right past them. Late entry, Kira shouted. But I am still winning. The entire crowd lost their minds. Serena snagged Kira's ankle with a thread, while Karen hooked her belt with a heavy cable. Kira just kept on rocket climbing, dragging both angry rivals right behind her. Karen sliced her cable and managed to land 2 floors higher up. Serena used Kira's momentum, swinging around the tower to fly past both of them. Kira just fired her gauntlets again. The explosion launched her directly into a safety foam barrier, leaving only pink hair visible. Kira slowly poked up one armored thumb strategic shortcut. Serena and Corinne hit the top together, each insisting the other cheated first. Aegis, of course, called that training. Personally, I called it 3 dangerous women refusing to lose. But down below, look at this. Dr. Lenora Fitch showed Director Kerr an impossible chart. I watched that security footage after the lockdown. Dr. Fitch ran Aegis research. She pointed at a line, telling Kerr that Eddie Palmer was clinically dead before his vital signs returned. Kerr stared through the glass at Eddie's sedated body, muttering to keep him contained. But Eddie's hand twitched against the sheet. Neither of them noticed. Later that night, Orson stopped using those phantom constructs, stepping into the chamber himself and locking the heavy seal right behind us. You wanted a real opponent, he told me. Congratulations. His body expanded. Heavy black armor rolled across his shoulders. His arms thickened until the cranky shopkeeper became a 12-foot monster with stone plates over every joint. I hit his chest, but my fist just stopped. Orson looked down, finished. He swung once. Dodge as I might, the terrifying impact hit me a heartbeat later, throwing me across the chamber. Delayed force, a pretty rude ability. I stood up and froze his feet. Orson immediately ripped through the ice and charged. Ducking under his arm, I hit his ribs and felt another delayed shock rattle through my bones. Every clean strike punished me twice. Orson charged again, expecting me to back away. I stepped right inside his guard, but his armored elbow still clipped my shoulder. That delayed blast tried to throw me off balance. I literally froze my boots to the ground to keep close, then hammered 3 quick strikes onto the exact same plate. His armor kept patching itself up before my next strike could even land. And that is when I saw those strange runes on the walls. They flashed every time Orson's armor healed. His body was pulling massive power directly from this sealed floor. So I stopped hitting him and attacked the floor instead, spreading blue frost everywhere. Slamming both hands down, I unleashed the massive power I had hidden during Karen's test. The first crack shattered the magic circle, and the second ripped right under Orson's feet. He lunged, so I slammed the floor again. The room broke open, collapsing pillars and shattering the runes. Orson's armor fell apart before his fist could connect, leaving me to catch his actual, smaller hand underneath. We stood in a crater where his training hall used to be. Orson looked around, muttering, I rented this place, while I just stared at the massive wreckage. You told me to stop holding back. Orson kicked a ruined stone, muttering, I also expected to have walls left. He pulled his hand away and stared at the ice, still obeying my will. The humor left his face as he said, You can actually contain it now. Enough to choose where it goes. That was the first compliment my monster coach ever gave me without hiding a nasty insult inside it. Next morning, Serena woke to a clean house and breakfast. Pretty sweet of me, right? She walked down in a huge, oversized sweatshirt, giving me a very suspicious look. Honestly, That sleepy glare was totally working for her. Serena checked the counters, asking what I broke. I answered, your expectations, as she immediately looked under the table. I placed a hot plate in front of her. Thanks for letting me stay here, I said, making her freeze with her fork halfway up. Serena told her plate, you do not have to thank me, someone has to keep you alive, as I sat down across from her. You worry a lot for someone who does not care, I said, her face flushed. Mumbling about property values, she listened as I asked how Aegis identifies demons. Serena looked away, explaining that active power leaves a signature, and heavy magic use always brings out highly visible marks. That was exactly why I hid my blue fire during Karin's test so my wrists would stay completely clean. I still had to search Irene's place for real answers, and I needed Aegis totally blind. 2 days later, Ridgeview finally reopened its undamaged wing. Brock tried to restart his bullying business near the vending machines, holding a hand out to some younger kid and demanding his lunch money. Staring at Brock's missing teeth, the kid told him to ask nicely, while someone behind them mockingly imitated Brock's crying from our fight. They mocked him, begging like he did. Everyone laughed. Brock ordered his old crew to handle it. Neither moved. Instead, one grabbed his bag and walked away. Brock tried to bark another order, but everyone just kept eating. The cheap bully honestly believed fear still worked. Absolutely nobody was listening to him anymore. After class, Serena and I headed to my old place, since every demon we encountered kept demanding a mysterious key. I still pictured some physical object. Together, we tore through Irene's desk, her shattered cabinets, and the loose floorboards right underneath her old bed. No key, just ash, old clothes, and that family photo cracked during the first attack. Gently, I wiped off the dirty glass. A younger Irene stood beside a dark-haired woman who was cradling me as a baby. Serena grabbed the photograph from my hand, her fingers gripping the frame hard. When I asked if she recognized her, she stared at the mysterious woman and handed it back. I recognized the room, she muttered. That answer came way too fast, so I immediately blocked her from leaving. You knew the pill coding, where the monsters would follow me, and now this room. Honestly, there's no way she can deny this, right? I know enough to keep you alive, she said. I did not move. That is still not the same as telling me the actual truth. Her fingers tightened around a silver thread on her sleeve. She whispered that she would tell me when it was safe, then quickly bolted past me toward the door. I slipped the photo inside my jacket. Serena definitely recognized something in that picture, and she had lied way too fast. Over at Aegis that very same evening, Eddie finally opened his eyes. Later, security cameras caught him sitting straight up without even calling for help. A doctor walked in and asked how he was feeling. In a raspy, dry voice, Eddie asked where Cameron was, forcing the doctor to immediately reach for the call button. Eddie spotted a bright red label on his chart that read biological risk. His face went blank as an orderly rushed in to hold him down. With one arm, Eddie slammed the orderly into a nearby cabinet. The doctor reached the alarm, but Eddie was too fast. The security camera shook. When the picture cleared, both the doctor and the orderly were completely down. Eddie calmly walked straight out of the medical wing, wearing the doctor's white coat over his thin hospital gown, with the security cameras recording everything. Nobody even realized the danger until he was already walking through their most secure floors. The next day, I visited Aegis for an update and found half the training division waiting for me. Clearly, rumors about Karin's test had spread. Director Kerr offered me an official Aegis badge. I left it on the table, muttering, "You get my cooperation, but the badge stays here." A gray-haired veteran scoffed from near the weapon racks. This was Travis Mott, Aegis's fastest field agent, a guy who built his entire reputation around striking targets before they could even blink. School tricks impress the kids, Travis scoffed, telling me to try them on an adult. Right then, Serena stepped forward. Mocking my injuries, Travis smiles and says I should just surrender, while Kira leans over the high railing right above us. Serena mutters that I look better without a badge anyway, earning a teasing grin from Kira, who calls her possessive. Her thread snaps against the rail, prompting Travis to joke that nobody asked for a relationship chart. Travis gestures to the weapon racks and tells me to choose anything, while nearby agents argue over how long I will last. Someone even bets I will last 10 seconds, prompting Travis to raise the stakes if I touch him once. He cleans the room. Oh, you know a guy is sweating when he starts making housekeeping bets. Kira leans further over the rail, asking to record the cleaning, which earns a massive glare from the veteran who just promised a show. I shake my head. When he asks if I am afraid, I tell him I do not even need to see you. That instantly wipes the smirk off his face. If any blue fire or demonic marks appear, Aegis will classify me as a monster. I have to defeat their fastest agent using raw physical movement alone. I close my eyes and Travis completely vanishes. A foot scrapes the floor, air shifts behind me, and I duck just as his fist swings by. He begins circling faster. Footsteps echo in rapid bursts, fabric snapping near my right ear. My brutal blind training taught me never to trust my eyes over pure body instinct. He strikes from my blind side, but I pivot with the sound. One perfectly timed, controlled punch catches him right in the ribs, launching his feet completely off the ground before he crashes down hard. The 10-second bettor looks at the clock, only 3 seconds passed. No one mentions the housekeeping promise. They are all checking if Travis is breathing. I open my eyes as Kerr slowly lowers the badge. Karen finally stops leaning against the wall, while Kira grins at me like she has just discovered her favorite new bad decision. Serena instantly checks my wrists. Clean, no marks. Honestly, holding back my raw strength was tougher than winning the fight. No one mocks my skills anymore. But right now, Eddie is sneaking through this exact building wearing a stolen coat. Just seconds after Travis hit the deck, the entire facility goes red as emergency sirens start screaming at the top of their lungs. Red warning lights flash as heavy steel doors seal the exits. Suddenly, Kira Lel drops from above, ready in her armored gauntlets. Lockdown, Kira warns. Move now. Meanwhile, the voice of Director Kerr booms over the intercom. An intruder has slaughtered the medical staff, so civilians must evacuate immediately. Kira grabs my sleeve, dragging me into the hallway. Agents sprint past us toward the medical wing while Karen and Serena get trapped behind a security door, fighting with the lock. A guy in a white doctor coat stumbles out of a side hallway. I recognize him instantly, even before he looks up. I call out to Eddie. He freezes, then smiles and crashes right into me as I catch my best friend in my arms. Eddie is actually alive and standing. His chest feels completely solid, and though his skin is freezing, I hear his shallow breathing. Since I hugged the killer first, I cannot really judge when Kira decides to jump in. Behind my back, the smile on Eddie vanishes for a split second. Seeing us hugging, Kira naturally chooses absolute chaos. Kira loudly claims she found a safe room with 2 handsome survivors. Aegis finally designed a useful emergency. The voice of Serena suddenly crackles over the intercom, ordering Kira to pull me away from the stranger. Kira just looks at Eddie. Getting jealous during a mass casualty event is kind of impressive. Eddie chuckles, but his laugh feels slightly delayed. Kira shoves us inside the closest containment room, and the heavy steel door instantly locks behind us. A single overhead light casts harsh shadows across the table and chairs, as the strict protocol flashes on the wall panel. Talk about terrible designs, this lock seals both ways, completely trapping us inside with the threat. Great job, Aegis. Eddie looks around, saying he woke up alone. I touch his shoulder, reminding him he was impaled. Rubbing his chest, he says he only remembers the gym. I ask about the pain, and if he remembers Serena saving us. He looks at the speaker, flatly calling her the blonde girl. Normally, he would tease me about Serena for weeks. He should have used her actual name to embarrass me, but his flat answer makes it sound like he is reading off a database report. Kira circles him, noticing how the white coat drowns his shoulders. Oddly, there is no patient ID band on his wrists. His gaze focuses on the neck of Kira before snapping back to me as the screen flickers to life. Director Kerr appears on screen, displaying a live feed of Eddie in that same coat. Behind him lie 2 lifeless medical workers. Kerr commands me to step away from Eddie Palmer. Instantly, the smirk of Kira fades, and Serena smashes the panel outside. Karen pulls a frantic Serena away from the sparking screen, but Serena yells that if it locks both ways, they must break it down. Slapping open her guitar case, Karen tells Serena to move while Director Kerr tries a manual override that gets rejected. Next, the security feed shows Eddie slamming an orderly and escaping the medical bay in a stolen coat. Kira looks down, a fresh dark stain marks her cuff. She reaches out to touch it. Eddie grabs her wrist, squeezing so hard the metal on her gauntlet creaks. I step in, let her go. He looks at me with my dead buddy's face, cold and dead inside. Eddie's mouth sneers, you always get to bark orders, don't you? Kira struggles to break free. Talk about a nightmare reunion. Eddie's fingers stretch as black claws tear right through his stolen sleeve. I smack his hand away from Kira. Those claws instantly slice the table clean in half. His fake smile vanishes. Eddie laughs, his head tilting at a sickening angle. Kira slams an armored fist into his ribs, launching him across the room. Slamming into the wall, he quickly melts into the shadow behind a cabinet and completely vanishes. Kira raises her armored weapons. He is inside the walls. A claw suddenly shoots out of her own shadow. I yank her away. The claw tears through her metal gauntlet instead, leaving 4 deep black grooves. A voice whispers, students died because of you. Using Eddie's mouth, the monster sneers, your grandmother died because she carried you. Eddie died because he called your name. I swing hard, but his body flattens into a shadow before my fist connects. Darkness slips beneath the cabinets and rises right behind Kira. I react too late. A slash rips her shoulder open, throwing her across the room. Kira hits the ground, clamping her gauntlet over the bloody wound. She grits her teeth. I am fine. Keep fighting. The shadow slithers. I strike hard, but my hand just hits solid concrete. Eddie materializes under the table, slashes my ribs, and slips into the chair shadows. I instantly coat the floor with frost to track him. A dark trail cuts across the floor and ends right at my boots. He erupts from my own shadow, catching me with a brutal jaw strike. I crash into the terminal screen. Outside, Serena screams my name, desperately wrapping her silver threads around the locked door. Karen fires an anchor directly into the lock. They pull together, bending the steel, but the heavy door refuses to budge. The hanging light creates a dozen dark lanes. Every shadow is a doorway. Suddenly, the parasite speaks with Eddie's voice from behind. You promised to protect me. I spin around, nothing there. Then a second voice gasps from the same body. Trapped deep inside, the real Eddie gasps through his own throat. Cameron, please help me. It is really him. My guard drops before I can even think. I call out his name, reaching toward my friend's body. For a brief moment, his eyes fill with agony, his fingers clawing at his own throat, before the parasite locks back control. It surges from my shadow and drives both claws deep into my back. I hit the deck. The monster whispers right in my ear. He can feel every bit of this, it sneers. Kira tries to rise, but the beast kicks her away, smiling right at me. It thinks Eddie's pain will keep me paralyzed. Honestly, it does for a moment. But then I notice the shadows around its feet. The creature cannot melt away under the bright lamp. It only travels through the sharp darkness cast by the objects in the room. No light means no shadows. I look over at Kira when the lights go out. Do not move. She nods once. I smash the light. Pitch black. The parasite laughs. You just made this easier. Closing my eyes, I trust my ears. The duel upstairs proved I can track movement by sound. My training taught me to anticipate every strike. Kira holds her breath. A bare foot scrapes near the left wall. Fabric rustles right behind my head. Claws slice the air near my cheek. I snap my hand out and catch the wrist. The beast tries to melt away, but there are no shadows left. The physical body is trapped in my grasp. I slam him into the wall. It claws my shoulder, but I strike him again. That second impact completely shatters the wall panel behind his head. He desperately tries to slide under the closed door. Without light, there is no shadow to carry him. Panicking, the parasite is forced to fight using only raw physical strength. I hear his foot pivot before the claws even swing. I catch his wrist, break his balance, and smash him back into the shattered panel. The brutal third impact folds the stolen coat beneath him. I pin Eddie's body hard against the wall by his throat. Blue frost erupts from my palm. The monster mimics my friend's voice. Cameron, please. But beneath that, Eddie's real voice begs me. Don't let it keep me, he gasps. I know the difference now. The creature wearing him grins. Hey, we are friends. My friend died back at school, I spit back. You are just a thief wearing his face. Freezing blue fire engulfs his body. The parasite shrieks in a horrific double voice. I keep the ice pouring until those wicked claws finally stop twitching. With a loud crack, the frozen form shatters into black ash. Dead silence. Eddie deserved a real grave, but my power took even that away. Once the containment door finally slides open, medics rush Kira out for treatment. I walk straight past Director Kerr. Dr. Lenora Fitch, the head researcher of Aegis, blocks my path. Eddie was dead when he got to us, she admits. A shadow parasite hijacked Eddie's body, copying just enough memories to impersonate him while his real voice remained trapped deep inside. Dr. Fitch kept explaining that they preserved the host because demon tissue usually burns to ash, but I cut him off. You knew he was dead, I said. Fitch just stared, both of us knowing the body was extremely valuable. I tore the red biohazard label off her folder and slapped it against the glass right next to Eddie's ashes. That was my friend. I screamed that she labeled him inventory and locked me in with a monster. Karen stepped between us, warning that Aegis saw this species hunting me. It targeted Eddie, simply because he could easily get close to me. This high-tech lab literally handed my friend's face to a parasite and locked me inside with it. Karen looked at Kira's blood and Eddie's ashes. Karen blamed my hesitation for Kira's death, but Serena instantly stepped in to block her path. Cameron had to destroy his friend because your researchers put him on a shelf. Stop acting so superior. Karen's jaw clenched, muttering that demons do not deserve mercy, but Serena fired back that they should stop collecting them. Orson called my blue flame royal. I fled to his shop before Aegis could label me. That night, rain lashed against the market windows as I kicked Orson's door shut, hard enough to rattle the tea tins. No more half answers, I demanded. Tell me why that parasite targeted Eddie, and what this key is. Orson just stared at the ash on my sleeve. But look at this, the cranky old shopkeeper actually sets his cane aside and drops straight to his knees. Orson looked up, calling me Cameron Avery, the son of King Alden and Queen Isolde, the human who once crossed into the demon realm. The demon king married her, ruling by her side. making their half-human child me. This powerful warrior, who once smashed me through solid stone, refused to look up until I forced him standing. I stared at him in absolute shock, asking if I was the prince from his story. The rightful heir, Orson confirmed. He explained that Varric was the king's younger brother, who used a hybrid heir to launch a bloody coup, slaughtering loyalists and stealing the throne. Irene carried me to Earth as the palace collapsed, Orson whispered, gently touching the frost scar on his cane. I suspected it back at the shop, but your blue flames and sudden control proved the royal power had fully awakened. Suddenly, Irene's final memories flashed in my mind. A desperate queen handing over a baby, soldiers closing in, and a blinding wall of light. Orson kept his head down, explaining that Irene sealed my power so King Varric could never track the royal bloodline. She raised me safely until that seal finally broke. I grabbed his shoulder, pulling him right back up. I asked if Irene knew what would happen when she unlocked it. Orson's face fell, admitting she knew the shock could kill me, but the assassins had already run a blade through my chest. Unsealing the power was my only chance at survival, so I let go. She took the only gamble she had. So what is the key? I demanded. Orson looked straight at me. Revealing the key is my royal authority. The dimensional rift is the bridge between Earth and the demon realm, and only royal authority can open or seal it forever. That power is inside you now, Orson warned, meaning Varric absolutely needs you alive. If he forces your magic into the rift, he opens the floodgates for his army. If you die too early, he loses his only key. Irene had spent her life protecting the key by keeping me safe. Every single attack was aimed at my chest. I asked if I could seal the rift. With perfect control, yes, he replied, but one wrong slip could shatter it completely. Tear it wide open. That was the heavy crown I inherited. One mistake, and the enemy army marches through. I ran out into the pouring rain. The storm washed Eddie's ashes from my jacket, but I kept sprinting until the city lights completely vanished. Irene died hiding this power. Eddie died because they wanted it. My decision was made. I would master this power before anyone else became target practice. That very night, my awakening aura surged toward the rift. Across the dimensional border, General Lucian had already stepped into the dangerous gateway leading to Earth. The exact night Orson declared me a prince, the rift echoed from the demon realm, though I could not see it yet. Later, Serena and Aegis intelligence filled in the blanks. A massive blue pulse surged through the ruins beneath the enemy palace. The usurper king instantly felt my royal aura touch the dimensional seal, knowing it could shut him out forever. Varric stood so fast his throne cracked. He demanded Lucian's location and ordered the dimensional invasion to speed up. Think about it, I only learned I was a prince 12 hours ago, and this tyrant was already losing his mind. To understand why General Lucian survived a portal that vaporizes weaker demons, Orson took me back to the original coup. Inside the burning palace, Queen Isolde found herself cornered by enemy soldiers, desperately pushing her newborn infant into Irene's protective arms. Take Cameron to Earth and hide him from Varric, she begged, as Irene drew her weapon to fight. Queen Isolde shoved her toward the escape route, ordering her to keep my son alive, before Irene fled toward the rift. Beneath a collapsed stairwell, she found her own children. Lucian, the older boy, held his little sister as she clung to his coat, wearing Irene's silver pendant. High demons age slowly. Even centuries later, children from that fateful night can still look young. Irene ordered Lucian to take his sister to the northern shelter, but he just stared at the baby in her arms. Promising she would return, Irene swore to find them before disappearing into the night with me. Lucian dragged his sister through the burning ruins, reaching the shelter before dawn, only to find the door smashed and every loyalist dead. They waited in the shadows until the fires died, but Irene never returned. Eventually, other loyalists rescued the girl and hid her identity. Choosing Varric, Lucian marched straight into one of his military camps years later, demanding a place in the army. Looking at his little sister, the recruiting officer sneered that soldiers do not carry dead weight. Lucian led the crying child deep into a dark forest and left her there. He never looked back, and when he returned alone, they let him pass. And now, this absolute beast is coming straight for me. He actually crossed the rift my awakening forced open. The intense red pressure tore armor right off his shoulders, blasting weaker demons backward. Serena later told me the crossing forces you to face your darkest memories. For Lucian, that meant the forest. He kept clawing forward, inch by inch. The child Irene saved had opened this path, but the son she abandoned was breaking through. The next evening, I got back to Serena's place, rain still drying on my jacket, and spotted a blue butterfly on the window. As I walked up, it stretched its wings, then squeezed through a gap far too small for any normal bug. Serena Maddox sat quietly at the kitchen table, her first aid kit open. She had stayed up waiting for me. My supposedly indifferent guardian pointed at a chair, ordering me to sit down because my shoulder was bleeding right through the bandage. I finally sat. I noted she always lies about Irene, but she just silently ripped my old bandage free. She claimed those things were unrelated, but recognizing the pills, the photo, and my marks is pretty impressive for a coincidence. Yanking the wrap much tighter than necessary, she worked silently. Was this medical care or an interrogation? Her eyes locked onto mine, warning me to shut up. Honestly, though, her angry face looked way too good. Bright and early the next morning, Kira Lel intercepted me on orders from Aegis, beating the security desk. Her shoulder still bore bandages from Eddie's vicious claws, and her gauntlet had deep black grooves as she hooked her good arm through mine. Morale is high since you survived, she teased, silver thread looping her waist. Serena immediately yanked her away, placing her 2 steps over. Kira looked at the binding thread and asked if guardian meant girlfriend. Letting her go, Serena snapped a flat no. I stared at how fast she answered, but she simply pointed toward the elevators. Now tell me she's not totally busted. That was definitely not a confident denial, and Kira knows it. Snapping against Kira's damaged gauntlet, Serena's thread broke before Aegis separated us. Dr. Lenora Fitch, the chief researcher holding Eddie's body, shut the heavy glass door. I cooperated only because registration would grant me restricted access. I fully planned to exploit that access while the scanner swept across my eyes and wrists. A single vial of blood was drawn, and the monitor flashed 3 lines before replacing them with a totally clean negative result. Suddenly, Dr. Fitch's hands froze right over her keyboard. Staring from the blood to me, she quickly locked her screen before Serena could spot it. I demanded to know what she was hiding as she pulled the vial away. She claimed it was nothing, ignoring my call-out, and stiffly told me my registration was officially complete. A standard result should have eased her tension, but instead, she took my blood sample away herself. Later that afternoon, I met up with Orson in the basement of his shop, where his old training room remained a crater. Showing me a hidden royal seal, he proved he once served King Alden under a different name, asking me to still call him Orson Webb. It was the only identity his enemies could not track, letting him keep his royal past buried for years. But my return forced him to bring it to light. Leaning on his frost-scarred cane, Orson knelt down, and I asked how many survivors were left. He warned there were enough to die horribly if summoned too early, so I told him to contact them only as survivors first. We can talk about army building once they actually make it here alive. Orson stared at me in silence, then bowed his head. Gripping his cane tightly, Orson solemnly vowed to track down all of King Alden's surviving men. He swore to gather every single loyalist Varric failed to execute, looking up to promise he would seat me on my father's throne. I pulled him up by the shoulder. Survival first, I told him. Crowns can wait. Orson just smiled. Tiredly. He sounded exactly like a true king or a man who just lost his closest friend. His smile faded, and he nodded. He promised to move fast. That very night, under a glowing full moon, Lucian burst through a blood-red lake outside town. He dragged himself ashore on one knee, smoke rolling off his shoulders as the rift snapped shut right behind him. Across the demon realm that night, strange blue butterflies began fluttering through the villages still loyal to King Alden. Whole families followed the insects into the deep woods, escaping Varric entirely. When a steward reported this, Varric choked the life out of him. Find that resistance before Lucian can even breathe, he snarled. Orson promised an army, but the enemy general was already on Earth. Hours later, I was heading home when a sudden, freezing chill brushed against the edge of my senses. Glancing out the bus window, I spotted Serena walking down an empty service road. A creepy hooded figure followed behind her, gliding with an unnatural stance. I hopped off at the next stop and hurried back. Serena was steering the stalker away from the main road into an abandoned shipyard. She waited until the final worker walked out, then whipped around to face her shadow. That was my cue to step inside. I teased her for calling me suspicious just to drag creeps into dark alleys. Serena shot back that she had it handled. Talk about famous last words. Right then, the stalker dropped to all fours as its legs fused into a massive, scaly serpent tail. Its jaw split wide open, revealing 2 dripping black fangs, as the hideous snake scout hissed directly in Serena's face. It hissed at her to hand over the key. Serena raised her hands, her silver threads turning blood red as dark markings covered her face. Sharp claws sprouted from her fingertips as several massive white tails flared out behind her, filling the yard. Look at this, the girl who screened me for demon marks was hiding her own collection. Then, Serena struck first. Her crimson threads wrapped around the beast's neck, smashing it through a concrete wall, but the serpent shed its scales to slip free, whipping its tail low. Serena leaped high, crossing her sharp threads to slice the tail against the pavement. The monster spat a stream of black venom, which Serena blocked with her tail, but a single stray drop splashed her collarbone. As she touched down, her entire left arm instantly went completely numb. Sensing her weakness, the beast charged, but I blindsided it hard. The impact sent it crashing straight through the metal gate, rolling out onto the street with my blue ice freezing its arm solid. But behind me, Serena collapsed to one knee as dark, corrupting veins crept up her neck. Seizing the moment, the snake fled. I let it run, diving forward to catch Serena just before she hit the ground, her glowing tails dissolving as I scooped her up. She weakly tried to push me away, whispering that the scout was escaping. I snapped that she couldn't run either, then carried her home. Back at her apartment, I laid her gently on the couch and channeled my freezing energy directly into the blackened, poisoned vein. The ice managed to halt the dark venom right below her jaw. Summoning her red energy, she stabilized her breathing. She was out of danger. Sitting down beside her, I slid Irene's photo onto the table and demanded the absolute, unfiltered truth. No more lies or guardian cover-ups. Serena stared at the picture, then at the fading marks on her hands. Serena confessed that she is a demon. She recognized the suppressors when Brock spilled them, and simply waited for the right moment. She explained that Queen Isolde originally entered the demon realm as an undercover Aegis agent, staring at the photograph. Once she took the throne, she commanded her loyalists to protect her son if the palace fell. Serena pointed toward the window. Those same loyalists eventually became the underground Bluing Network. They use butterflies to guide refugees, send secret signals, and monitor hot zones. One tracked me down when my power seal began cracking. I asked about her role. Serena gently touched the cracked frame, admitting Irene always knew Bluing was watching. Sliding her thumb over the crack, she said Irene made her promise to hide my bloodline until I was strong enough for the truth. Staring at her hand on the wood, I realized Irene truly trusted her and the mission. Serena quietly confirmed it. But I wanted the absolute rest. Serena met my gaze, admitting Bluing assigned her to watch me, then glanced toward the hidden screen. She stayed close because my suppressors were failing while Aegis secretly gathered footage. When I asked how long, her quiet pause spoke volumes. She admitted it was way before Ridgeview. This lethal warrior goddess had been tracking my entire life, joining my battles like that settled the bill. So, why keep lying to me after Irene passed away? Gripping the couch, she explained that Aegis brutally executes demons, and Varric murders absolutely anyone caught protecting me. Looking down at her fading markings, she admitted that telling me before I mastered my power would have gotten us both killed instantly. You still made that choice for me, I pressed. Serena looked away, whispering she was wrong as her grip made the couch fabric creak. Even so, she did not apologize. Instead, she reached under the couch and popped open a secret panel. Inside, a monitor displayed stolen Aegis security footage, showing agents stepping directly through a blank concrete wall and vanishing into thin air. The classified file carried Queen Isolde's name, but 40 seconds had been completely wiped. Serena tapped the missing footage. Aegis erased part of your mother's history. They also built something behind that wall. Dr. Fitch hid my blood test. Serena found the hidden wall. I pulled the stolen access keycard from my jacket. No more begging Aegis for the truth. I told her we are breaking in. The next night, Serena and I used my new security card to infiltrate their own facility. The toxic poison had faded to a light bruise near her collar. Still, her hand trembled when she thought I was looking away. I told her to stay safe. She just clipped a wire spool up her sleeve and mocked me for getting lost in her house on day one. Testing the wire spool, she told me I was not going alone. It was one hallway, I muttered. You went at me with an axe, she reminded me. Still, she won the argument before we reached the car. Inside Aegis headquarters, my fresh card cleared the elevators and 3 secure gates. Serena mapped our path. We stayed out of camera view, her stolen footage cut off at a blank wall on the restricted level. We slipped down during shift change. I tapped my keycard. Serena slid a single razor wire through the seam, catching the secret latch. The massive wall slid open. Look at this. Aegis actually built a massive secret room directly beneath their public headquarters. Talk about zero subtlety. The damp corridor smelled of disinfectant and smoke. Heavy glass tanks lined both sides. Actual living demons floated inside. One was chained up tight. Another breathed through a heavy respirator mask, its skin heavily marked with glowing testing lines. A third monster opened pitch-black eyes as I passed, slamming a hand against the cold glass. Usually, demons dissolve into ash when they die. These tanks kept them barely alive for brutal testing. Aegis built their entire private collection on that loophole. Serena stared closely. They paint every demon as a monster. Yet here, they keep them locked up like spare machine parts. Suddenly, one beast slammed the glass, triggering a blinking red alarm. We moved fast before guards noticed. At the end of the hall, Serena pulled up Queen Isolde's private files. My mother's old profile photo showed her wearing combat gear near an ocean map, marked with a chilling note: passage expedition, one-way route. Heavy footsteps suddenly echoed. Director Wallace Kerr had just opened the wall behind us. Serena shoved me behind 2 huge metal supply racks, quickly pointing up toward a narrow ventilation duct. She shot a steel wire through the vent, climbed inside, and yanked me up. The metal grate settled just as Director Kerr walked in. He paused right next to the tank that had sounded the alarm, touching the console before staring straight toward Queen Isolde's cabinet. The file drawer was left just slightly crooked. Kerr tapped his collar, ordering them to seal all secure elevators. Someone accessed old files, Kerr snapped. Serena's cold fingers gripped my wrist. A tiny loose screw rolled right under my elbow, but I caught it before it fell. Down below, Director Kerr walked right underneath us. He looked straight up, the flimsy duct groaned slightly under our weight as Kerr stood there waiting. Fortunately, the tank's alarm pinged his phone, forcing him to head over to the lab entrance to deal with it. Squeezed in the duct, Serena took up one side while I was packed into the remaining 6 inches. Her long hair completely covered my face. I whispered that her infiltration plan was currently attacking my face. She leaned closer to brush it away, her eyes ending up inches from mine. For one incredibly tense second, neither of us breathed. Hey. In my defense, this cramped vent was making a pretty strong argument. Her hair shifted again, blowing toward the back. That is just airflow, she muttered. I admitted I thought she was actually leaning in. Her cheeks flushed. You think highly of yourself under pressure, she whispered, since you are lying on top of me. She crawled away first, leaving our brief romantic moment behind. The breeze guided us to another metal grate directly over a secondary lab. Down below, Karen Ashby sat with her sleeve rolled high. Dr. Mallory, the physician in charge of recovery, stood right beside her. A tray syringe held thick, dark red fluid. Karen stared anxiously at it. That last injection got me back in the field, she argued. Dr. Mallory checked her arm, stating her recovery had slowed lately. I am raising the dose, he said. Karen's eyes narrowed. You said this was standard support, she argued as he injected her. It is standard for chosen agents, he answered. Karen watched the dark fluid enter her arm. The most famous anti-demon soldier in Aegis was taking a secret serum 10 feet from locked-up demons. Her confused reaction proved she had no idea what was in that needle. Honestly, neither did we. Serena recorded the syringe and the doctor through the vent. Now get this. Serena pointed to the glowing screen behind him, showing Queen Isolde's files next to deep ocean coordinates. It started in human waters, ending right at the rift. This was my mother's path. I memorized the coordinates while Serena grabbed a quick screenshot. Suddenly, the metal grate creaked loudly under her wrist. Doctor, Malalari stares up at the ceiling. Karen follows his gaze, instantly drawing a sharp blade from her guitar case. Serena pulls me back, but her poisoned arm completely gives out in the tight shaft. I catch her waist before she hits the grate. She whispers for me to let go now, but my survival record says otherwise. Karen slams her blade straight through the duct right behind my heel. We scramble forward, dropping through a service hatch into a utility corridor as lockdown alarms start blaring. Serena keeps the copied image, while I lock the exact coordinates in my mind. We slip out through the main lobby, passing right under those ironic Aegis heroic recruitment posters. Underneath them, captive demons are still breathing. While we escape Aegis, Lucian is already raiding my old apartment. See, scout reports leaked Irene's address, and the royal tracking spell led Lucian straight to our ruined door. I watched the footage later. He walks right past the shattered doorway, scanning each room without disturbing a single speck of ash. The security feed shows him picking up Irene's cracked picture frame, almost smelling the wood, before heading straight to her desk. Inside, he finds a duplicate of the photo I carry, an ancient queen holding me when I was just a baby. Irene is standing right next to her. Lucian tears my baby self out of the photo and lets it drop. A security guard walks in with a flashlight, telling him he cannot be there. Lucian spins. Seeing the marks on his face, the guard reaches for his radio. Lucian holds up the torn picture, demanding to know where Cameron Avery is. The terrified worker backs away slowly. The guard stammers that the police sealed this place. He hits his radio, but Lucian strikes once, dropping him instantly. Lucian snatches the torn picture and escapes out the window. That very night, scouts confirm the horrific measures Varric took to widen the rift. His entire demon realm was starving. Still too narrow for an army. Chained creatures are dragged to the glowing abyss beneath his palace. He tosses them in, one by one. The first beast claws at the rocky edge until the metal chains tear its skin apart. A guard hesitates before throwing the next one in. Varric glares, forcing him to shove harder. Every burning body expands the gateway by a few inches. Later, a steward reports that blue butterflies are smuggling entire villages into the forest resistance. Varric slams the steward to his knees, ordering him to hunt them down before he needs more sacrifices. This corrupt king is literally feeding his own people to the rift, then punishing his men because families are trying to escape. Adele's damaged transmitter records the exact chaos that happens after Orson's warning. Before Orson could evacuate the refugees, he met two resistance fighters in a dark, abandoned shop. Young Adele Pryor was one of them. Secret messages hidden under her coat, she watches Orson place 3 magical escape seals on the counter. Orson warns them that Lucian has crossed over and they must move every family tonight. He pushes the glowing seals toward them. No permanent hideouts, he orders. Burn the roots once the last child is safe. The senior rebel quietly touches a seal. The royal flame returned, they whisper. Orson confirms it. Adele immediately asks about the prince. She asks if King Alden's son is still alive. Orson nods and confirms he is. Adele smiles as Orson slips out the back. Seconds later, Lucian bursts through the front. The other fighter throws a seal out the back, then charges Lucian with a dagger. Lucian instantly grabs his wrist, snaps the blade, and slams the rebel right through the front display window. Adele uses the distraction, quickly shooting a grapple line to swing into the dark alley. Lucian's quick strike still gashes her side before she can swing away. She hits the ground hard but forces herself to run. The wounded rebel inside tries to stand. One strike. He collapses, instantly turning to ash. Stepping over the shattered seal, Lucian walks into the alleyway. He stares at the fresh blood on the pavement and begins tracking Adele. Aegis security cameras capture the absolute horror of Varric's widened rift. Get ready, the downtown asphalt completely splits open as Travis Mott races forward. Nightmarish demons claw their way out among smashed cars and screaming citizens. Aegis can no longer hide this war from the world. A demon lifts a compact car right above a mother and child. Our speedster blurs across, dragging them away before it hits. In a flash, he delivers 6 heavy blows, sending the monster crashing down into the fiery abyss. Travis rushes to a sinking bus and rips the back door off. He rescues 3 passengers before the nearby monsters can even react. Kira lands beside him with her shoulder taped, her gauntlets still bearing deep monster claw scars. Her armored partner raises his shield, jokingly telling her to focus on fighting the demons before she starts flirting with the speedster. Kira fires both gauntlets and leaps down, yelling that she can easily multitask. Kira slams a horned demon right back into the pit, using its face to break her fall, but suddenly, another beast grabs her bandaged shoulder and hoists her high. She drives her broken gauntlet straight into its jaw. The cracked metal splits open even wider, but the explosive blast still sends that monster flying through a traffic light. Her armored partner slams his massive shield beneath the bus, stopping it from sliding further into the glowing crater. Just then, Karen swings in overhead with her guitar. She blasts right through one demon, transforms her rifle into a sharp blade, and hacks another away from a terrified, trapped family. Suddenly, a third beast leaps right behind her. Karen whips her cable around its throat, swings it into 2 other monsters, and pins them all under a massive street sign. A news chopper films her wild move while Travis clears out the crosswalk. Together, Kira and her partner smash the beasts holding the bus. Karen pins the final monster to a concrete wall, ending the first wave. Panicking civilians finally stop running once they get behind the Aegis line. Kira slowly raises her heavily damaged, smoking gauntlet. She asks if that earned her a promotion, but the pit answers before her partner can as a giant hand grips the street. A massive demon pulls itself out of the abyss, completely blocking the skyline. Kira slowly lowers her fist. Nobody talks about promotions anymore. By the time Serena and I finally reach the downtown crater, the monstrous threat rising out of it makes that first wave look like easy practice. Its shoulders scrape both sides of the street, 6 glowing eyes open across its head. Her partner had just jokingly asked if she could fight something she could not actually flirt with. Now, the giant demon glares down at her. Kira goes completely quiet. You and I both know a situation is totally cooked when she loses the urge to joke. Suddenly, the giant swings. Travis drags 2 civilians to safety, but the shockwave still blows him right through a bus shelter. Kira blocks the next attack with her gauntlets. The armor splits at Eddie's claw marks, slamming her hard into the pavement. Karen fires 3 quick shots into its face, but the wounds heal before the empty casings even land. She whips a cable around its throat, securing it to a fallen light pole. Meanwhile, Kira grabs one ankle, as her partner braces his shield against the other. Travis darted back and forth across its vision, drawing all 6 glowing eyes away from the trapped citizens. For one brief second, the team has the giant bound. Then it stands, tearing the heavy pole right out of the street. Kira and her partner get dragged face first across the pavement. Travis takes a massive backswing to his arms, flying through a glass storefront window. The giant demon reaches out for Karen. Meanwhile, across the city, Orson finds Adele Pryor hiding under a deserted train platform. Her damaged bluing signal kept recording. That is how I later heard their talk. Adele fled 3 blocks from Lucian's ambush, her coat soaked with blood. A crushed bluing seal was in her hand. Orson catches her before she collapses as she desperately grips his sleeve. He followed us, she whispers. Orson looks at the blood trail as she struggles to speak. She asks if Alden's son is alive. Orson says Cameron lives. Then, she passes away. Adele smiles, and literally turns to ash in his arms. Back at the pit, Aegis screens order all unauthorized personnel away. Director Kerr demands Cameron Avery hold his position. He warns I am not cleared. Aegis gave me one job, and naturally, I fail it in under 3 seconds. Classic me, right? Karen disappears under the giant hand. I toss the radio to Serena, who grabs my wrist and promises she will track down Orson's signal. She tells me to stop that monster. I run as the colossal demon lifts its hand for another strike. Karen rolls out of the crater, but her weaponized guitar is jammed tight under the shattered concrete. The massive hand comes crashing down. I tackle Karen from the side, rolling both of us clear just before the giant palm obliterates the concrete right where we stood. Complaining that she had it under control, Karen pushes me away, but her weapon is still buried in the crater. She looks at the crater and stops arguing. The giant turns toward the civilians behind the Aegis line. I plant my foot on a wrecked car and jump, expecting another bullet. It gets my fist driven deep under its jaw. Blue frost fire erupts right through its massive body, freezing all 6 eyes instantly. The pure impact lifts the giant off the ground and shatters its chest armor. It crashes into the pit. The whole body crumbles into ash. Just one hit. A news chopper films it from above. Travis crawls out, staring in pure shock from the empty pit to my fist. Kira lowers her broken gauntlets. Karen pulls her weapon from the concrete without calling me a coward this time. Aegis agents who block my deployment quickly step aside and open a path. Director Kerr asks over the receiver who authorized that. I pick it up from the pavement and simply answer, nobody. A long silence follows. Then Kerr switches channels, giving Avery full field access, a bit late, since the giant is already dust. Karen drew her guitar weapon, met my gaze, and stepped aside. Then Serena's voice cut in, saying she found Orson. That small bit of relief lasted for only 3 seconds. While Aegis stared at the ash, Orson warned every loyalist in a nearby safe house. Even after Lucian arrived, the safe house camera kept transmitting the footage. Serena recovered the broken feed as Lucian followed Adele, while Orson ordered everyone to take families out through separate exits. Leave nothing to track. Lucian smashed through the front wall before anyone could reach the exit. One swing took his head. Ashes. Orson struck Lucian's ribs with his frost-scarred cane. Delayed force cracked the wall a second later. Lucian barely flinched. Orson quickly flipped his cane to strike the floor. Lucian snatched the cane, instantly deflecting Orson's own delayed blast right back. Orson's shoulder shattered. Move! He screamed. While he did, a loyalist slapped down the final seal. A butterfly signal fled to every cell. The remaining loyalists charged together. Red threads locked his arm, a spear struck his shoulder. Another grabbed his waist. Lucian easily broke free. Their sacrifice bought Orson time to escape into the alley. Lucian followed closely. Orson rushed across a packed street, desperately trying to lead this monster away from innocent civilians. Lucian stopped by a delivery driver helping people escape. The man surrendered, but Lucian cut him down instantly. Looking toward Orson's hiding spot, Lucian shouted for him to keep running. I can keep choosing strangers, he mocked. As a couple tried to save the driver, Lucian turned toward them. Orson stepped back out. That was exactly the trap Lucian wanted. Orson raised his cane. Your anger belongs to me, leave them out of it, Lucian smirked. You all said that. Then, their massive collision shattered every window on the block. Aegis drones caught the blast, flashing a single warning across every screen. Code 9, the worst tier alert. Talk about a nightmare, a city-level threat, and the live feed just popped up on my receiver. There was Lucian, blade raised. I bolted before Director Kerr could finish ordering a team. Serena met me at the entrance with her silver threads. Aegis will kill Orson too, she warned. We get there first. We raced ahead of the convoy, and I bolted over the rooftops. Serena swung between buildings to cut corners. The live feed kept playing on her wrist. Orson struck Lucian's knee, crumbling the pavement. Lucian simply walked right through the collapse. Lucian's blade sliced Orson's arm, sending it crashing to the street with the cane still clutched. Orson stayed upright, ramming his shoulder into Lucian to buy time for civilians. Lucian swept low. His leg was severed. He fell, and I could hear Serena's breathing tighten right beside me. The official Aegis team was still blocks away. Lucian raised his blade over Orson's neck. I launched off the rooftop, shattering the concrete. I hit Lucian before his blade could land. We crashed through a storefront, burying him deep under brick and steel wreckage. I landed in front of Orson. Frostfire ignited behind me. Orson stared up through blood and dust. His face softened for a second. Your father stood like that, he whispered. Lucian emerged, holding a massive support beam. He threw it. I shattered it with one arm. Finally, we get the face-off we have been waiting for. Lucian Crowell, the general who crossed worlds for my blood, stared right at me. An Aegis drone hovered overhead, broadcasting citywide. Lucian completely ignored it. His eyes locked onto mine. Irene's stolen prince. He mocked as I stepped over the debris. I told him he murdered civilians just to stop one injured man, calling out his pathetic revenge. He sneered that my mother abandoned her babies for me when he was just an infant. This abandoned general could slice through buildings, but my words hit a nerve. I caught his wrist. The street buckled beneath our feet as his technique channeled my force, sending a recoil into my shoulder. I instantly froze the pavement around his boots and drove my forehead into his face. Lucian absorbed the blow, shifting half a step before twisting my arm to redirect it into a truck. The truck folded completely. I kicked his knee. He pivoted my ankle to throw the force at Orson. To protect my mentor from the shockwave, I released my grip. Lucian knew how to turn my raw strength against me. Orson groans behind me. I need him out of the way. Serena's red threads wrap around Lucian's throat. Serena lands in her many-tailed form, while overhead, Aegis drones capture every single claw and pale tail. Her secret is out. Serena pulls Lucian back and yells, "Take Orson." I lift him. Lucian stares at Serena's red threads, then spots the silver pendant around her neck. His body freezes. "Naira," Lucian whispers. Serena's tight grip falters for a heartbeat. Naira was the child Irene sent to the shelter, the sister Lucian abandoned in the deep forest. Serena Maddox is Naira. Lucian stares at her tails. "You survived." Serena's face turns like ice. "You left me there. The path burned." Lucian snaps, "I thought you died." Serena tightens her red threads until his armor cracks. "You never came back." Lucian looks at me carrying Orson, then back. "Mother chose him. Now you protect him too." Serena plants her feet. "Irene returned too late, but you never came back." Lucian roars, ripping a thread. Serena traps his arm with 3 more. "Run, Cameron," she yells. I carry Orson away while she holds her brother. 2 blocks away, Orson's body starts turning gray. I lay him down by a closed storefront. His wounds are spilling ash. I desperately press blue frost around them anyway. Orson touches my wrist stop. "I keep the ice there." "I saved you." Orson looks up at the red glow over the buildings. "You reached the blade, but the damage was already done. I got there before the sword." I still arrived too late. Orson's cold fingers tighten around my hand one last time. "The dead leave responsibility," he whispers. "But the living can still change the future." Then, his hand crumbles into ash. The rest of his body crumbles before I can speak. The closest thing I had to a father dissolves into black dust. I gently lay his frost-scarred cane beside the ash. Behind me, Serena's lines snap. Aegis engines are closing in. Their surveillance drones already exposed exactly what she is. I stand up. Then, I head straight back to help her fight. You'd think one solid blow would finish this guy, but the cost? It's about to break us. I rush back to the street seconds after Orson crumbles to ash. Serena is still holding Lucian with 3 red threads while Aegis tactical vehicles close in from both ends. Her tails are flared. One of her arms is shaking from that ancient poison. She glances at me. "You planning to charge him alone again?" "Grief should make me wiser." Serena tightens her grip. "It didn't." "Fair enough. My protective guardian has followed me into another family disaster." Lucian breaks a thread and rolls his shoulders. Orson's blood still stains his sword. "You die today." I growl. Lucian glances at the ash behind me. "You always show up after the important part," he sneers. I strike before he finishes, but he redirects my force. The concrete explodes under Serena instead of him. She leaps the collapse, loops a thread around a lamppost, and kicks his jaw. He grabs her ankle, but I instantly freeze his wrist. Serena twists free, slicing 3 deep lines across his armor. Lucian backs right through a parked car. He comes out ripping the door off and hurls it straight at Serena. I shatter the door in midair, but the metal shards keep flying because Lucian redirected my kinetic blast. Serena crosses her tails over her face, bouncing shards off her pale fur. She glares at me. "Controlled power, remember?" "Great advice, terrible timing," I yell. Suddenly, Lucian lunges right between us. My royal magic controls rifts, but Lucian is a pure combat beast. Watch how Serena and I double-team him to stand a chance. I strike high while Serena sweeps low. Lucian redirects my shoulder blow straight into her red threads. The heavy recoil throws a nearby car sideways. Serena releases her lines before the impact hits her hands. She snaps a fresh line around his knee, and I instantly blast deep frost into the joint. Finally, some progress. Looks like the general finally felt the weight of gravity. He thrusts his blade, but I dodge and trap it. Serena binds both his wrists. For one brief second, we have him trapped. Then Lucian stomps, sending a shockwave up her lines. The force whips her right off her feet, but I catch her waist before she slams into the concrete wall. Serena's tails wrap around us, shielding us from Lucian's follow-up slash. We land together, and she quickly pushes off my chest. Keep your eyes up, Prince. I tease that she was blocking the view, making her cheeks flush red despite the danger. Then she literally throws me at her brother. Apparently, throwing me at dangerous enemies is how she flirts. I fly across the street like a human missile, driving both boots straight into Lucian's chest. His armor cracks along Serena's slice. Aegis tactical trucks slam to a halt on the block. Karen Ashby steps out first with her guitar weapon deployed, as agents raise rifles. Their eyes whip from Lucian to Serena's tails. Kira stood right behind a wrecked gauntlet. Even that total flirt completely lost his words. Serena spotted the heavy rifles, her lips thinning. Lucian noticed them too. See there, he mocked her. The humans finally see what you really are. Serena yanked him, cracking another chest plate. At least they noticed me helping. She snapped, try it sometime. Suddenly, a rifle aimed right at her. Karen instantly slammed the barrel down with her massive guitar weapon. Keep your target locked. Every gun stayed on Lucian. Serena squeezed harder, and the agents let her. But Lucian ripped up a street lamppost, swinging it right through her threads. I managed to catch the pull. He let go, slamming his palm into my chest with bone-crushing force. I braced myself and let freezing blue fire engulf his arm. Lucian's armor frosted over. Serena struck from behind. He spun toward her, exactly what we wanted. Serena shot two sharp threads right past his eyes as he dodged. Those threads snagged a shattered traffic light behind him, ripping it down. He threw up an arm to block the falling metal. Serena whipped three tails across his eyes. Lucian slashed blindly. I slipped right inside his guard. Freezing blue fire coated my fist. I shoved it right through the crack Serena had ripped in his armor. My hand tore clean through his breastplate, erupting behind him in dark ash. Lucian froze, pinned down by Serena's grip. The agency guns stayed pointed right at us. Someone whispered that we got him. Karen lowered her guitar weapon slightly. We finally landed a clean hit, but honestly, none of us were ready for what happened next. Direct contact is a total trap. Then Lucian smiled. The guy had a literal hole through his chest and somehow looked pleased. Seriously, nobody that beaten should look that happy. Suddenly, his fingers clamped around my bare wrist. Direct contact. The blue fire instantly reversed. My own royal authority ripped right out of my arm, flooding into Lucian. I struggled to break free. His fingers squeezed hard, locking onto my bone. Serena's thread sliced his shoulders, and she dug her claws deep into his back. A violent shockwave of royal pressure blasted her across the street. Serena hooked a tail around a pole, stopping just above the concrete. Lucian leaned in close. The key was never something you carried, he sneered. It was always you. A bloody red line sliced open the sky. The rift reacted to the power draining from my body. His master plan stood fully exposed. Lucian took that massive wound just to grab me, feeding the rift in steady bursts. My vision started to blur. Dark chains wrapped tightly around my heart, the exact same ones Irene broke. In my mind, Orson yelled to control the release. I saw Serena struggling to stand under that red sky. Lucian killed Orson to bait me. He baited Serena with her family and grabbed me the second she slipped. Now he was draining the control Orson taught me. So, I decided to unleash every single limit Orson taught me to hold back. Blazing blue frost fire erupted from my skin, flooding into Lucian's arm. That smug smile instantly died. Cracks shattered his armor. He desperately tried to let go, but I grabbed him right back. You wanted the key? Take all of it. Pure, violent power ripped through us. Lucian dropped to his knees as every remaining window on the block shattered. His dark armor burst at the shoulders, blinding blue light pouring out. For one wild second, I thought I actually broke his trap. Then, the red line split the sky from horizon to horizon. The rift was open. A pitch-black sky appeared right behind ours, packed with thousands of terrifying silhouettes. Far away, this same light flooded King Varric's throne room. The crowned king gave one order. Invade Earth. Demons began falling into the streets. One monster crashed straight through a roof. Another smashed onto a bus, tearing into passengers before agency troops could even react. A winged beast snatched a guy off the sidewalk, lifting him high. He fell before I could even move. Agency comms immediately switched to full breach protocol. Director Kerr ordered every single squad into the chaos. They had prepared for this for over a decade. Armored shutters quickly locked down the lower floors. Attack drones launched from the roof, and heavy weapons rolled out. Yet, nothing slowed the demons pouring from the sky. Lucian released my wrist, vanishing behind falling debris. I tried to chase him, but then Serena gasped. The massive surge of energy hit every demon nearby. Serena's old poison wound turned pitch black, and her tails flickered weakly. Her knees gave out. I caught her just before she hit the concrete. Nearby, a demon landed right behind a trapped family. Lucian was just one target, but how could I leave thousands of defenseless people? I froze in my tracks. The monster ripped a door off, shoving the family aside. Another beast landed right between Karen and 3 civilians. Serena tried to raise her hand, but nothing happened. I bolted across the street, broke the beast's jaw with one hit, and threw it under a truck. The civilians fled. I scooped Serena into my arms, noting her incredibly shallow breaths. Gray ash clumped around Serena's deep side wound as her body struggled to heal. Karen stared at her, then up at the sky. My power had shattered. No one dared raise a weapon at us. Meanwhile, endless demons kept dropping through the glowing sky rift. So, while our personal grudge match exploded into an all-out war, I carried Serena all the way back to her safe house. Just as we reached the entrance, a heavy black Aegis truck slammed around the corner. That portal surge had triggered the poison in her blood, turning her healing flesh back into gray dust. Her heart skipped twice before we made it inside. I laid her down, locked the steel window shutters, and checked the dark bruise rapidly creeping up her arm. Serena barely opened her eyes. "Lucian is still alive," I whispered, but she grabbed my sleeve, telling me not to face him alone. "You can lecture me once you stop turning into ash," I said. She tried to glare, but couldn't hold it. I bolted into the hallway to grab the medical kit when metal suddenly screeched behind me. I spun back to see a sharp guitar cable slicing the doorframe. Guess who made it inside? Karen, holding her blade right at Serena's throat. This purple-haired executioner had broken in to execute the very ally who just saved Aegis agents. She picked the wrong fight in the worst possible place. Keeping her eyes locked on Serena, Karen told me to move. I set the medical kit down. "You came alone," she scoffed, saying she didn't need backup for a single dying demon. I immediately stepped right in front of her blade. Karen tightened her grip, pointing out that Serena turned to ash when healing. I snapped back that it just meant she was alive. She aimed the blade right at my chest, declaring Aegis only kills monsters. I slowly pulled my sleeve up, exposing my dark corruption. As blue frostfire danced across my knuckles, Karen froze. I whispered to her, "Then you missed one." Her eyes darted from the marks on my skin to my face, her cable loosening just a bit. "I am half demon," I said, "and this rift belongs to me." Her grip tightened again, but I reminded her that Director Kurnos only cares about results. She glared at Serena, arguing I brought a monster inside Aegis. I stepped closer. Aegis literally kept Eddie's corpse for experiments. "Save your speech about purity," I warned. Karen's jaw clenched, but her weapon didn't budge. I gestured toward the sirens blaring outside. "You can execute Serena and make me your worst nightmare, or let me go out there and destroy the monsters taking over your city." Karen asked if that was a threat. I replied it is just a choice. Time to pick a side. Human. Silence filled the bedroom, broken only by Serena's shallow breathing. The elite hunter who once shot at me now stood completely frozen. Karen stared at the gray dust on Serena's side, then at the crackling blue fire on my hands, before slowly lowering her blade. "We have a truce until that portal is shut," she muttered. I immediately grabbed the medical kit. "Good," I replied. "Try not to shoot my patient." Karen retracted her weapon, telling me to stop ripping open alternative dimensions. Honestly, I deserved that jab. I quickly cleaned her raw wound and wrapped the heavily poisoned arm. Once her breathing calmed and the ash stopped flaking, I moved her behind the heavy inner vault door. Karen backed off, never taking her gaze off Serena. I secured the door and glared at Karen. "If this seal is broken before I get back, you are my first target." Karen prepped her cables, calling me Prince with a heavy dose of sarcasm. But at least her weapon stayed completely deactivated. Moments later, I was back in the chaos. The streets outside Aegis Command were a total mess of smashed cars and raining monsters. Karen joined the fray from across the street, shooting heavy wire right through a beast's wings. Nearby, an agent tried saving 2 civilians, but a massive horned demon blocked them. Karen blew out its knee and dragged them to safety. Another beast landed right behind her and bit into her forearm. She rammed her blade through its chest to break free, but her bleeding arm made her stumble. 2 more demons closed in instantly. I crashed down between them, unleashing a shockwave of frostfire. Both monsters froze instantly. I shattered the first and threw the other through a wall. Karen clutched her bleeding arm. I smirked at the frozen statues. "That is rescue number 2. Your performance score is getting pretty embarrassing," I joked. Karen reloaded, muttering that she had them completely covered. "Yeah, right. But look closely." Gray ash starts spilling from her glove as the deep wound rapidly closes up. Karen's flesh was healing exactly like a demon. She stared at her ash-covered palm, all the confidence instantly draining from her face. Then came the fury. I remembered seeing Dr. Mallory inject her with something back in Aegis's secret laboratory. To her, he was just the medic handling her strength therapy. She ripped her glove off, watching her skin stitch together under gray ash. "How long?" she demanded. I gave her the truth. "Mallory doubled your dose before the city fell." She stared at the Aegis headquarters like the building had betrayed her. "What did that doctor put inside my body?" she asked. I told her to go ask him yourself with a syringe in her hand. Karen clenched her fist and marched toward Aegis. While Karen heads straight for Mallory, Bluing recovers a damaged security feed from a street near the rift. The serpent scout that poisoned Serena creeps through the heavy smoke toward Lucian, whose cracked armor barely holds together. Bowing low, the creature boasts that the Bluing woman is as good as dead from its venom. Lucian turns around slowly as the snake raises its head, bragging about leaving enough poison to stop her heart. Watch this. Lucian leaps forward mid-laugh and drives his bare hands straight through the monster's chest. The beast stares down at the arm through its ribs, then Lucian reduces it to ash and walks away. That rogue general kept preaching that humans and demons deserve equal hatred, yet he instantly vaporizes his own soldier over a sister comment. Real logical, purely detached. Meanwhile, back at Aegis, Karen reaches Mallory's hidden clinic with demon ashes, still staining her skin. She stands at his door with a burning question. What did he inject into her? She came straight from the battlefield. This hidden lab belonged to Dr. Mallory, deep below Aegis headquarters. I found out what happened later from the records. Mallory was the shady doctor who had been secretly spiking her regular enhancement doses. Seeing another full syringe resting on a steel tray, Karen grabs it and slams the needle right under his chin, telling him to use it on himself. He panics, saying that dose isn't safe for him. Karen pushes harder, calling that a very interesting answer. Karen asks what is inside. Sweating bullets, Mallory uses his calm doctor voice, calling it a simple recovery booster. He stammers that she authorized the treatment. Karen exposes her injured arm, where gray ash flakes off perfectly healed skin. Smearing the ash onto his clean coat, she asks if recovery usually does this. Mallory nervously glances toward the door. She presses the plunger, letting a single droplet gather at the needle tip, warning him not to lie again. Or else he will test the side effects himself. Mallory folds instantly, admitting they used elite demon DNA on top agents. Nobody was ever told where the power came from. Karen holds up the syringe, letting the light catch the liquid. The huntress stares at the dark ash on her wrist. Aegis sent her to hunt monsters while putting monster blood in her veins. Check this out. Her grip tightens as she spots glowing test tubes through a hidden door, finally lowering the needle. He sighs in relief too soon. She drags him into a secret lab filled with living demons floating in massive tanks. One locked-up monster raises its head, staring directly at them. Another thrashes against its cage until the glass shakes. Tubes connect the glowing tanks directly to the devices used on human agents. Aegis was literally draining these beasts to modify their soldiers. Mallory quickly reaches for the alarm. Karen grabs his wrist and forces his hand onto the scanner, popping a lock. A starving monster crawls out, sniffing the blood on his white coat. Terrified, the doctor barks a serial number, ordering it to back off. The beast keeps creeping forward. Seeing his face, a second beast slams against the glass. Karen unlocks that door as well. Then she pops a third. He forgets the serial numbers and starts screaming Karen's name. His voice cracks higher with every cage she unlocks. Dropping his cool doctor act, he begs Karen to listen because they are both human. He claims he only made her strong to protect people, suddenly caring about humanity now that the monsters are looking at him. Karen walks to the door, telling him to answer to the beasts he harvested. He panics and runs after her. A clawed hand snatches his coat, but he grabs Karen's sleeve, begging to help reverse the process. Karen just looks at her fully healed arm. He never asked before changing her body. She yanks her sleeve free as the beasts drag him to the ground. They start feeding before she even reaches the exit. His panicked screams do not sound like orders anymore. She seals the heavy lock and walks away. Later that night, she sneaks back into Serena's quiet bedroom. Serena told me about their talk later. Karen had already changed her bandages before she even opened her eyes. Fresh gray ash stains Karen's sleeve. Serena spots it instantly but decides to stay quiet. Her massive guitar weapon sits across her lap while she blocks the door. The room still smells like medical spray and riff smoke. Serena eyes the weapon, looking at the very woman who tried to end her, asking if she is here to finish the job. Karen watches the hall, telling her Cameron is still out there, so she should stay safe. Serena tries to sit up but fails. She slides a glass of water closer, telling her to drop the attitude because the city needs her ally more than this petty debate. Serena takes the cup, teasing that it almost sounded caring. Karen replies that it was purely strategic. So my uncaring guardian ends up with an equally cold bodyguard. Quite a mess, right? 2 heavily armed women, 1 house, and 0 emotional honesty. Karen remains in that chair, keeping watch. Meanwhile, outside, the rift continues to pour terrifying monsters directly into the city streets. So while Karen kept Serena safe, I was down there fighting under a shattered sky. A horned demon lunged right at a crowd of civilians. I froze its legs solid, yanked it away, smashed it into the asphalt. Right then, 2 winged beasts dropped behind me. One blast took down the flyer, the other went straight through a wrecked bus. Nearby, an Aegis agent fell under a clawed giant. I caught the giant's claw, snapped its arm, and pulled the guy free. He saw the strange marks across my face, but he still grabbed my hand. More demons rushed in before the ash even cleared. And look at him now, the school punching bag is literally slicing through an entire army. That legendary upgrade came with a massive toll. Humans feared me, demons hunted me. I chose to protect the people standing right behind me. If killing every single monster to keep them safe was the only way, then that was what I'd do.